Okay. And Addie, just as a little reminder, we were going to do the A&Rs first, and we have John Bolin here from Stamsky.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if once you call to order.
Yep, it's not quite about time yet.
Yeah.
All right, it looks like it is now 7 o'clock. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Town of Carlisle Planning Board, Monday, March 30th, 2026, 7 p.m. on Zoom only. We will have a continued public hearing for the site plan review for the Carlisle Fire Station that we will start soon, but first we will do our A&R plans that we can hopefully manage quickly. So up first is the approval not required plan for 641 South Street.
Yeah. And Jonathan, do you want me to screen share them or do you want to? I did make you a co-host so you can.
If you want to do it, that's fine.
Sure,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
no problem. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Everyone's good?
Yep.
641 South Street plan. Okay. I don't know, since you're here, if you want to just talk through them quickly.
Sure, yep. So I'm Jonathan Bolin with Stamsky and McNary. This A&R, it's on South Street. There's an existing, it's a vacant lot now, and the proposal is to divide it into three lots with the potential in the future to divide lot two again. There is going to be a common driveway special permit filed for this too, but the lots all conform to zoning and so if there's any questions.
Any questions from the planning board?
I guess I could, there is a stone wall along there, right? That will have to be adjusted for the driveway.
Yeah, and I mean I believe it is a scenic road, so that'll all be part of the permitting for the development.
So this is just for the creation of the lots. There's no development that's being proposed associated with it.
Exactly. At this point, it's just to create the lots.
Anyone else?
No questions at this time.
Any, Julie, do I take questions from the public or comments from the public?
You can if you want to, but you're not required to for an A&R. And this is not a public hearing.
Okay. I will just, if you want to comment on this, raise your hand quick. From the public. Seeing and hearing none. I will take a motion to not approve because it's not required. What is it that we do, Julie?
You endorse the plan as approval
Endorse.
not required. Yeah.
Take a motion to endorse the approval not required plan.
So moved.
Second.
Who was it that seconded? Dwight? Great. Since we're online, we'll do a roll call vote.
Adams, aye.
May I?
Vegas,
Grady, aye.
Yeshua.
We don't have Stacy, and we don't have Sarah. That's everybody, right? Okay. Motion passes. Shall we go to the A&R plan for Kimball Road?
Can you all
This
see it
is,
on my screen?
Yeah. So this one, there was a court case, the owners of the Kimball Road address, 280 Kimball Road, filed an adverse possession claim against part of the property of 41 Swanson Lane, and the court awarded them a small part of that property. So this plan is just to kind of memorialize that and get it recorded so that it's something that people can find in the future. So there's no new lots. Both lots still conform. But the court's already said that that title is transferred to that little parcel.
That's adding that parcel to 280?
Exactly, yep.
I'm just having a hard time seeing what was shifted here. Julie, can you maybe?
Yeah.
Oh,
Bottom
it's
right
a teeny,
corner
teeny,
there.
teeny, tiny bit.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
got
teeny
it.
piece right here.
There's a little detail of that up at the top
Yep.
right corner of the plan.
I see now.
Yeah, that's about, yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the planning board? Comments?
No.
Anything from the public? Raise your hand or, well, you can't speak up. Raise your hand. Okay, hearing none. I will take a motion to endorse the approval not required plan for Kimball Road.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Adams, I.
Nay, aye.
Vegas, I.
Grady, aye.
Yeshua, aye.
And Stacy and Sarah are not here. These need to be signed. The Mylars need to be signed. Can folks get to town hall tomorrow to do so?
I can. I'll be able to go.
Great.
You
Thanks for
need all
taking
of
these.
us.
We'll need
Right.
4 of you. Yeah, we
Four.
need a simple majority of the board to sign the plan. So
When will they be ready, Julie?
we have them, so we'll just send out an email reminder tomorrow morning. You guys can come by.
What's the earliest to come by in the morning?
I mean, I usually get in pretty early. So what time do you want to come?
What time do you get there?
I'll get there
Okay.
by 8 probably.
Okay, I can come by in the morning.
All right.
I can come by in the morning too, but probably not that early.
I'll be there at
Yeah, we'll be
7.
there.
I'll be there at 7.
Town hall usually opens at 8:30, so
Oh, I'm
8:30.
usually by 7.
I do usually get in pretty early on Tuesdays, but depends on how late tonight goes.
yeah.
Do you have any meetings tomorrow morning?
No.
Thanks, everybody.
No
How
problem.
late are you there? How late are you there tomorrow, Julie?
I'm there all day
What is all day?
till like 7.
All right, I'll be there sometime towards the end of the day.
Okay.
Wow, really making you work for this.
All right. Moving on to the continued public hearing for the site plan review. Is that where we should go next, Julie?
Yes.
Okay. So the continued public hearing for the site plan review, the Carlisle Fire Station renovation and expansion, 80 Westford Street, parcel 21-1-0, applicant Fuss and O'Neill on behalf of the town of Carlisle. So we've received as of late last week the full bid set plans, and we received as of this morning the updated permitting set plans. The review process, I think, is kind of ongoing. I think we still have quite a bit that we need to absorb. What I wanted to do to sort of maybe reset a little bit from um, the meeting on the 9th, where we felt that we didn't have the materials we needed, as well as the personnel, the staff that we needed from the project team. I think it's worth taking a step back and kind of talking through what our role as the planning board is on a site plan review like this, what we're looking at and for pursuant to our rules and regulations for site plan review, and kind of getting on the same page about timing and sort of what is the kind of plan set that we'll be able to look at and provide direct feedback to, that can then be actionable on the basis of our discussions. So I know that what we had previously received was more rendering style design documents. I think that the full bid set is what gives us what we need to understand what is planned from an architecture perspective, as well as other aspects like lighting and the photometric plans, etc. Actually, I don't know if the bid set contains lighting. But what I thought would make sense to do is ask if Scott Triola from the select board, or a member of the building committee, the fire station renovation committee, is here and can give us I don't see Scott on. He did say he would be. Oh, no, I see him. Hi, Scott. So it'd be helpful, I think, if we could understand from the select board what the goals and objectives of this project are, what the timeline has been, and what you anticipate the timeline being going forward, so that we can understand how our review fits in and how we will have sort of the full picture of what we need in order to adequately conduct a site plan review process.
So I can give a very quick high-level overview of the early work on this, and then maybe Greg or Eric, you can step in to talk about the renovation committee. So if we go back a year and a half, the select board made it a priority to move the fire station renovation and expansion project forward, and make it a top priority. So essentially, the select board became the de facto building committee, driving the early work in selecting the OPM and selecting Tecton, in working with them on the conceptual design, which ultimately was funded a town meeting a year ago, design work that allowed us to do the work leading up to last special town meeting in November, to present a conceptual design to the town and to request the design funding, which was also approved. The project from when we began with Tecton and the priorities and the goals that we also put into the charter for the building committee were, and I'll just read through them very quickly. It's to meet the current anticipated safety standard for Carlisle firefighters and EMT, to provide living and working space necessary to attract and retain on-call firefighters, accommodate gender equity, maximize the existing space, so the existing station, and only add cost-effective space based on needs assessment, and maintain a high level of sustainability in the completion of the project. So those are our goals. Those are the goals that we also passed on to the building committee. And our goal has been, and we know it's been an aggressive goal, and we've been working with Tecton and CMS and the building committee, was to get this project out to bid so that we could bring a bidded project total to this town meeting. So we know that's been an aggressive goal. It's one we periodically and repeatedly check in on to see if we're still on track. And I've attended a couple of the building committee meetings and have asked the questions of them. And to this point, they've continued to work and push forward and believe they can meet that goal. So again, in November, we created the building committee with the charter that's on the website that reflects those goals. And at that point, turned it over to them. They've done their work from a select board standpoint. We met with them on March 10th. They presented the updated design and cost trade-offs they had done. This was about a week prior to sending out the bid documents. At that meeting, we saw an updated render, the updated floor plan, and the select board at the end of that voted to unanimously support moving forward with the bidding process. So I'll turn it over to Greg or Eric at this point to talk about the building committee.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you. And good evening, and thank you everybody for your time tonight. My name is Greg Zerlo. I'm co-chair of the committee with Eric Bolles. The work has been with our architect and the project management team, town departments, and eventually it'll dovetail in with the construction team. We're working within the parameters of the budget, the schedule, and the core values of the project. And where we are now, the documents are out to bid, the drawings and the specifications. We're looking to obtain, really good, reliable pricing that both the select board and eventually town meeting could vote on with confidence. We anticipated 2 addenda in the process, and CMS, our OPM, perhaps could speak to detail on schedule if needed. But the thinking is the conversation about design continues within the committee or through the planning board's review process. The committee's final recommendation to the select board may include a strategy of how we incorporate no cost or low cost changes into the scope of work after the addendum period. So the committee is meeting tomorrow. We will focus our design review agenda item on what it is that we hear today. We'll take that into consideration and also help that allow that to inform our plans and how this works with capturing some of the comments in the next addendum, or if we need an alternate plan. The design has evolved since folks have last seen it, and we expect Tecton's presentation tonight to walk us through that point, how the design has evolved over time. We don't expect the planning board to have a reaction to every detail, but rather focus on the issues of site design and overall building character. I mean, the role of the planning board as it relates to our work is important for strengthening the project. We think that input is critical for what's appropriate to the town. So thank you for this meeting, and Eric and I will do our best to answer any questions that we have along the way.
Thank you. Can you explain what the bid process means? So what does going to bid mean? What level of sort of plan completion are you going to bid with, or have you gone to bid with? What is the addenda process that you've outlined? Does that have to do with the bid, or does that have to do with design, these sort of plan revisions? And what is your expectation for sort of the start of the construction and the final construction documents that need to be produced in order to get to a building permit and a construction start?
Okay, I think I would ask someone from the CMS team to talk about specific dates, but it was always anticipated that the addendum that would be issued would really primarily be focused on the typical bid process, the request for informations or clarifications from the bidding subs and the general contractors. knowing that we're in motion with design comment, both within the committee and now here in front of the planning board, those are opportunities to bring the items that we discuss or we feel are important for the design to bring it into the final bid by getting it into one of the upcoming addendum. The actual start date, we may have something penciled out if as things move forward. But I think I would ask CMS if they have handy the actual dates if we want to get down to that level. They share that with us.
Thank you, Greg.
Neil?
I'll take that question.
Thank you.
So in terms of the bidding process, we went through an extensive pre-qualification requirement. Again, sort of background information through February and into March. Bid documents were put onto the street about 10 days ago. Filed subbids will be received by the town on or about April 9th of this coming about a week and a half from now. And general bids will be received on the 23rd of April. Those dates are what was published in the contract and what will be anticipated unless they are adjusted and or shifted in time. In terms of addendum, I would envision that we will have one addendum issued between now and the date of the filed subbids, and one additional addendum between the date of the filed subbids and the general bids. And again, that it could be more, but at a minimum, there would be one addendum in each period. In terms of the anticipated start of construction, we would envision with a successful presentation and endorsement of the project at town meeting and the subsequent debt exclusion vote, that we would execute the contract and have a notice to proceed with the contractor in place on or about mid-June to late July, mid-June to the 1st of July, and a 15-month construction schedule, Matt. 15 months is what's currently planned for the project.
15 months,
So
that's correct.
conclusion would be the fall of 27.
Planning board, any process questions, timing questions, etc.?
As it relates to the addendum, how much contingency is factored into cost changes with addendum? Whether it's design and construction or all of it?
So as of right now, the budget, I believe the budget that we presented to the select board was estimated at 5% contingency on an estimated construction cost of 14.5 million, round numbers. So I don't have that number in front of me, but I can certainly share it.
Neil, so construction costs of 14.5, what about soft costs, architectural fees and so forth? What's the total proposed?
It was Eric, it was 5% of each. So it's 5% of the total project cost. I can grab those numbers. Hold on one second.
Thank you.
And
Yep.
Neil, while you're pulling that up, just to note that with the contingency in it's kind of like a design and pricing contingency, there's an escalation of a 1.5%. So really the total contingency in the town's construction budget is 6.5%.
And planning board, any other process questions?
I guess my biggest question, and I'm not sure if this is the right time, Addie, but is around specific material selection and specification.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have one more process question. So based on your engineer's estimate, if your bids come back beyond the contingency that you have set in place for that? What's plan B?
So we, part of the early pricing, the design development phase pricing, when we saw we were trending over budget, we went through a value engineering process. So we know that we've squeezed down on the scope of work, not cutting, but getting the same value for the money where possible. That resulted, the expectation is that it results in a tighter bid. We have found through CMS's reporting, my own personal experience, that bids are coming in pretty favorable. So what happens if in fact we are over budget, even by said dollar, we would present to the board, make a recommendation, present to the select board, make a presentation about the merits of proceeding with the project with that overage, or there needs to be an alternate plan.
So for the select board, if this does come to play, and just talking purposes, the bid comes in at, you said it was 14 million, so say it comes in 10% over, 15% over, now we're up to 15.4, 16 million. Is the select board, what is the select board's position on that for either partially proceeding with this in hopes of getting additional funding, or how does that affect the process?
Well, the next step in the process would be a decision on whether to bring the article to town meeting. And so that would be based on whatever that number would be. And ultimately, the town would have to approve the project. If it was so out of line that it wasn't conceivable that we would bring it to town meeting, and that's not my expectation, then the issue there is that we wouldn't, if we were not to bring the article to town meeting, then we would probably have to wait to a special town meeting perhaps to do additional design funding.
So the other question with that is, this is all being funded through bond, is that correct?
This
Or
would
is
be
it something else?
excluded debt, yeah.
All right,
This
yeah,
is what's
all right.
proposed at town meeting again. Not this, the current funding was approved, the current design work, the 1.4 that they're working under currently was approved at last town meeting.
Mhm.
So essentially that money runs out. If this project is not approved at town meeting, then we'll have to wait to a future town meeting to figure out next steps.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more process question myself, which is, so this is obviously municipal work. It's Chapter 149, right?
Yes.
The contract form is a lump sum, right?
Yes.
And how might the cost change once the contract is signed?
It would follow a contract change order process that's prescribed in the contract documents.
And what could those change orders be based on?
Normally
In other
there
words-
are normally a change order results from one of four conditions. It's either an owner request, an unforeseen condition, a third party request, such as from a building inspector or another town committee, or simply an unknown condition.
Or a hole in the scope, right?
Errors and omissions, right?
Yeah, errors and omissions, correct.
Okay. Are there any more questions on process?
So I don't want to put too fine a point on it, Addie, but again, if there's a lack of specificity in any particular portion of the architecture, engineering, material selection, that is not part of the bid set, and we move down the road. So Neil, I think what I'm trying to just ascertain from you is, let's say, there's a note on the bid set that says, exterior material is stone block. I don't know, right? And then bidders put a number to that, and then ultimately, once the specification is identified by the contractor, and it's not acceptable to the town, would that be considered part of a change order that was requested by the town for kind of, let's just say, a more expensive material?
That certainly is a potential.
Okay.
So,
I mean, if it let's look at it this way. If it's a simple change in color, right? I would not without changing the material itself, I would not expect that would be a significant price increase. If it's a whole scale change in material and we have to reevaluate another building system, that certainly is a horse of a different color, no pun intended.
So, one more question about the design. Apologize for taking so long. The 1.4 million that was referenced earlier, does that include CPS? Submittals, RFIs, DCRs, et cetera? Certification.
Are you referring to the construction phase
Yes.
services?
Who's overseeing the construction phase to address RFIs, submittals, to Eric's point, and all the other things, possible design, DCRs, design construction change or reviews, changes, whatever. But yeah, there's all that. I assume that's included in the design fees that you've mentioned for the 1.4?
No, it is not. Construction phase services would be appropriated with the construction funding at town meeting this spring. So they're not currently included in the project.
Understood. So is that included in the $14 million construction cost?
No.
So we're asking for more than $14 million.
Correct.
So it's going to be probably,
Yeah, construction, we've only funded through this phase design funding through bidding. None of the other soft costs associated with construction or furnishing the building, the construction or services of the OPM or the architect have been funded at this time.
So what would we be expecting for CPS services? Dollar-wise? 20%, 30%? 4.5 million?
I don't know if you're able to pull those numbers up, Neil. I don't have them off the top of my head.
I don't have them, Matt.
Okay.
I just want to make everyone aware that there's more money involved here that we're not seeing that, and granted, it may not be under our purview, but some of the stuff is in terms of your construction phasing and plan and all that stuff. But as a tax-paying citizen here, I'm asking these questions because I want answers.
So this was presented at the select board meeting and public meeting.
Correct.
And at the time, the current total project cost estimate was $17.5 million, including the construction costs and the soft costs.
Okay.
And Scott, does that also include site construction landscape plan that was included in the most recent bid set?
Yes,
that's
Matt,
correct.
you guys can speak to the specifics, but our understanding as a select board was that was the quote unquote all-in cost that we were looking at. They provided some additional breakout of how they got to that number, but that was the estimate. And that was just for clarity, that was when we spoke to the town back in November. I forget the exact numbers involved. I don't have them in front of me, but this was about $1.5 million, $1 million to $2 million north of the total project budget we had estimated at town meeting in November. So I think at the time we had set an expectation of $16 to $17.5 million in November when we spoke to the town, and that included the 1.4 million in design costs. So we're a little bit north of that in their estimated, in their internal cost estimate. We have to wait to see what the bids come in at.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's super helpful.
Yep. So I just want to be clear from a public communication standpoint. We've been as forthright and transparent with the total project cost and how that builds up. And part of the reason we're doing it this way is we didn't want to bring a project to the town until we had bids and had a concrete number. Unlike other projects where we've brought a project to town meeting and then you get into it, then you realize you need another 10, 15%. We didn't want to do that with this project, knowing the importance of it and size of it.
But based on what Neil said before, with the 5% contingency on construction, that's adding another, call it 700 and change, right? So
That was
if it's
included in that total, the contingency.
in the 17 and a half, that includes that 5% contingency?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, anybody.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And just to add a little color on, in building construction, right, we have, design and construction, the hard costs and the soft costs. And on the owner's side, the town side, the soft costs include, all of the detail that you would hope to be carried in a budget for planning, including testing and inspection by third party, all of the miscellaneous costs from the architect to the minor things that we have to be prepared for, including a soft cost contingency.
Sorry, one last thing, and I'm assuming that the new stretch energy code is the code of that we're conforming to.
That's correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the elements, and again, chime in if I'm incorrect with this, one of the elements that this design includes is solar panels, which was not part of the original concept, but is needed to comply with stretch code. So part of the work that the building committee has done is to ensure that it complies.
So this starts to get into some of the site plan review commentary and questions that we continue to have. And I just want to sort of pause here and note that, I think a lot of this questioning, well, first of all, I think you have and Eric, I love your deck house. I live in one too. I think what you have here on the planning board is a more in the industry planning board than you might typically have. We have architects, developers, contractors, et cetera, veterans of the MBTA. So we're asking questions because we're worried about scope holes and potential for things changing along the way. And we want to have a set of plans on which we're making a determination that's within our jurisdiction and our purview that is based on what's actually planned to get built and what's being bid to get built. And so there's this part of this line of questioning is related to that, I believe. I think that some of the things that we're looking at they were not available in the plans that we have seen until very, very recently. Just as by way of example, rooftop equipment, and how that is visible from the street, the solar panels that are going to be on the roof. I haven't seen a plan yet that includes those things. So we're trying to make sure that we see the full picture here. I think there's some others of us I shouldn't say others, but there are those of us who will also have some thoughts on sort of the architectural approach and our purview with respect to the site plan review rules and regulations, asks us to look at the fit with the neighborhood. And we want to be able to address that and look at ways in which we might have an opportunity to credulously make a ruling on that. So that's sort of where some of this is coming from. And I apologize if it feels sudden or if it feels abrupt. We met on March 9th. We didn't have a whole lot of actual documentation to respond to. I don't know that there were folks there in the meeting who were able to answer many of our questions. And it went the next night for select board approval. And so the process feels a little out of order. But here we are, and we want to do what we can to ensure that we give this the site plan review that as robust as it needs to be, and it should be. It's a municipal project, yes. But site plan review regulations apply. So with that, I would like to move on to looking at the plans themselves and work on sort of providing some feedback. I think we can provide some kind of detailed / specific feedback as it relates to the civil site plan drawings. I think that we can maybe provide more high-level feedback as it relates to the architecturals. And hopefully we can reconvene and better understand what we're looking at from the standpoint of the fit with the neighborhood. Does that work for folks?
If I may, also Valdez with Fossil O'Neill, part of the design team. I don't know if we have time. I know we've gone through, some of the time going over other aspects. Matt, I don't know if you agree. I think it will be beneficial if Matt and I get to speak a little bit, just talk about where we are with the design and how these differ from what was originally submitted to now. And
That would be
maybe
great.
that helps the board, as they look at the new set. But I'll defer to you to tell me if you think that's a good idea.
Nope, that's exactly where I was headed next, was to ask you to explain the site plan for us.
Can I also just chime in? I just want to be clear that the Tecton, CMS, the building committee have been working under the directive of the select board with this aggressive timeline. And we've had pretty clear communications with them, and they've been pretty clear with us in terms of where they were, and also that everything we're seeing still needs to go through site plan review and conservation review. So I just want to be clear that we've been driving an aggressive timeline, and the building committee and Tecton and CMS have, from our standpoint, been doing a very good job setting the appropriate expectations and making sure that they're clear and we're clear that while it is an aggressive timeline, we are not cutting corners here. We are not looking to bypass any processes. So I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Scott. And I hope I wasn't suggesting that you were trying to cut corners.
Nope.
We're just trying to make it efficient. So let's dive right in. If Fuss and O'Neill, if you want to pull up a site plan and walk us through it.
Will do. Share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Can you tell us which set you're, I'm sorry.
Sorry, what about now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I lost my Zoom. Oh, there it is. Okay, thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we put a presentation to show kind of like the more of a finished look of the building, as well of like a color site plan that we want to go over to kind of give you an update of where we at right now and how we got here. Before that, I want to do a quick parenthesis and really quick just say that the original plans dated from beginning of February to the plans that were actually submitted on Friday on response to comments from Land Tech peer review. From a completion standpoint and civil perspective, they have the same level of information, but things changed along the way. We received comments from, the town, from Conservation Commission. We kind of like worked towards the bid set, and there were a few things here and there, but from a like overall level of detail, grading, site plans and all these things, like they were pretty close. I want to add that when those plans went in initially, I'm flipping really quick to before I actually go over my presentation to the original set that was submitted to the board. This is this one dated February 2nd, 2026. That one also included some of the typical building elevations that you will see on a submission for planning board. On this, you can actually see that there were stuff on top of the building on those elevations. Those were there. From a detail standpoint, we had all the typical details that you will see now. And you actually had like a full-blown site plan, grading plan, and utility plan. We've made changes since for the better, we think, to get to where we at right now. So that being said, I just want to say that the plans that we have today, from a completion standpoint, are necessarily not more complete, are just slightly different because of comments that we have received to make the project, pretty much responding to comments that we have received. These revised set that we sent on Friday, we feel pretty confident that should be sufficient to address the comments we received from Land Tech. From a technical standpoint, we didn't really have any big technical comments there. So I know Julie said she was going to be sharing those with Land Tech. So our hope is that once they review those, we're going to be in pretty good shape, at least with Land Tech. So that being said, I will start our presentation now. And just, I'm going to go to our latest side plan. So pretty much this latest side plan, again, already has all the latest pertinent information that was included on the last bid last Friday. It was really good that we were able to get comments from the peer reviewer. I think Julie has done a pretty good job also at passing on comments from the board. Same thing goes for Megan, the Conservation Commission, that we actually got approved by the Conservation Commission last Friday because we have successfully responded to all their comments. All those comments from Land Tech peer review, Conservation Commission, and anything received up to last week have been already addressed on the set that it's on the board hands right now. And this is pretty much a colored rendered of that set, if you could say that. So from a general standpoint, the layout hasn't really changed. Most of the changes that has happened since are pretty much negligible unless I tell you specifically what those are, other than the landscaping that was added pretty much in the front of the building here, in the front of the outbuilding, as well on the right side of the site, on the eastern side, to help kind of mitigate some of the tree cutting. Most of this landscaping on the right side came from COMCOM comments. A lot of the landscaping on the front of the building, and outbuilding, as well as the 4 feet tall fence that is also acting as a fall protection that came from planning board on the last hearing. So all those items have been incorporated. Other than that, the actual number of parking spaces, the circulation of the site, location of EV charging spaces or accessible spaces, location of outbuilding, main building, none of that has really changed since. So again, really quick, you have your Eastern Drive that is a way in and out with about 9 parking spaces in this area with the EV, a couple of EV spaces here. I want to point out these are EV ready spaces. It's not part of the project right now to actually install the charging stations. What EV ready means is just the conduits will be there. So it's like a plug-in situation. The town can go and actually buy the charging stations at a later date and just plug it in, and everything they need to get it to work will be already in there. This is in compliance with the stretch code, which states that 20% of your proposed parking space needs to be EV ready. They do not require any of those spaces to be actually working stations at the beginning of the project. So as you keep coming through the side, right there, you have the front area here. It's the existing fire station to remain and be remodeled with the apparatus base there to remain. And then on the back, you can see the proposed fire station building addition, which is pretty much what is driving most of the side work to be pushed towards the back of the side to be able to get the fire department the program they need from an operation perspective. So you have your one-way drive as you navigate to the back. Once you get to the back, you have, again, you go back to a two-way situation, 22 to 24 feet driveway per town bylaws. You need a 22-foot on driveway width. We did make the one on the back 24 as we were coordinating with the fire department because they felt as this area is a little bit tighter, they wanted to make sure that the turning movements work. And we provided like multiple turning movements and we worked together with the fire department to make sure that they felt comfortable about where we were with that. So this drive on the back is 24, everything else is 22. That is two-way as you keep coming, pretty much counterclockwise. Then you have your accessible spaces here in this area, which is the area closest to the new main entry. And then you have still your retaining walls on the other side of the drive. As you know, we have wetlands pretty close, so that's why you don't really see any parking spaces on the other side of the drive. We only have a guardrail with the retaining wall to make sure that we are kind of like accounting for the grade difference there and protections for the vehicles as we have like a considerable grade change from the top of the wall to the bottom of the wall. As you keep coming and navigating pretty much in this direction where my cursor is, you get to the outbuilding area, where they're gonna pretty much use it for storage and maintenance for some of the vehicles they have. And then there is another retaining wall with steps just to provide access to this low level area here. And that's more just for like the fire department to be able to use it for like the annual picnic barbecue area. They're gonna put like a few tables down there and cook, some nice cooked meals and just, have their annual barbecue, and also have access to where the proposed leaching field will be located. So that's kind of like the intent with those steps there. So that way they don't really have to like walk all the way down the driveway and kind of like leave the site to then come back and access that area. Now that sends us back to the front of the site where, again, we have these new revised landscape areas that you're going to be also able to see some nice renders that we worked with Tecton to put. So like in the next slides, Matt will go over those. So you will have other views of what that planting looks like and the finished product of the building. Overall, then you have your utility generator transformer area in this area, which is pretty close to where it is right now. That's kind of the existing location of the generator. And then you have many bollards here just to protect that area with the retaining wall in the front of the building being reconstructed and with a new layout to accommodate that transformer and generator. Other than that, I want to give a quick update on the status on that. Like I mentioned before, we got approval from COMCOM last Friday. We also got conditional approval from the Board of Health on the leaching field. Few weeks ago, I want to say almost a month ago at this point. And then the one item that is being coordinated right now is the well, public versus private well, in which it seems more and more that we're getting towards the public route for the public well. However, there's still discussions on how we want to proceed to make sure that the actual timeline of the project is not impacted. And there are discussions that we might move forward with permitting the private well and then still through the addenda process, get a new location for a public well. That way, even though we might not be done with the permitting of the public well, because that will be done through DEP, it takes about 6 months at least to get that done. If we locate that well in an area that, regardless if it is private or public, it will not have any impact to the actual development or the site layout per se, it will be much better because it will only be a permitting effort not necessarily any repercussions on your site layout or scope of work outside of the well. So that's already on the works, and the plan is to be able to have that through the addenda process now, so it's accounted on the final bid numbers that we get from the contractors, from the bidders.
Quick question.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Thank you for this. Is there a site plan that expands beyond the scope of this property that shows where a public water supply would be located, and that it's the wellhead protection zone is possible?
Yes. So sheet GI 100, that's part of the plan set, of the permanent plan set. We call that like our index sheet. Is pretty much like, to your point, like a graphical representation of a bigger scale of everything that is around your site. For perspective, this is the limit of your site. This is the wetland that we've been referring to. And then there is your district boundary of like general residence A versus general residence B. In this one thing we don't show on this one, because it's for context only, is the actual location of your public well from the town hall that is located. Sorry for this, but I'm gonna flip really quick
to
the side plan, just to show kind of the limit of the existing public well, just for reference. You can see that is pretty much within this wetland area, and like almost hits your proposed building location. So on that perspective, you can see that it pretty much ends right before where your proposed parking will end for the new development. So going back to that index sheet, again, I apologize for the back and forth. I know it's not easy on the eye. You looking at that public well boundary, not going past where this red line is right now. I don't know if you can see this line.
Yes.
So that being said, the early considerations that we are talking about the possible location for a new public well, it's somewhere in this area up here, in which we will make sure that it will not overlap with existing public well zone 1, and it will also not overlap with the proposed leaching field, kind of like 100-foot buffer that you need from the well to that. So we feel confident that we have areas up here that we can locate that well and avoid any kind of like overlapping with the existing public well zone 1 and the proposed leaching field location. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of like
it's a great first start. Thank you so much for illustrating that, and no worries flipping back and forth between slides. I just it's an important aspect to me, and I just want to make sure that the feasibility of that is not diminished at this early stage of planning.
No. We feel pretty comfortable that we can do that. I don't want to oversimplify it. From a cost perspective, the biggest thing is going to be longer runs for your trenching.
Of course.
From a construction standpoint, I think the biggest impact for the project will be the cost and time implications with the Mass DEP permitting, not necessarily construction wise, but permitting wise is where the
right, which I think is fine. I just want to make sure that there's a feasible route to a public water supply that includes whatever. I don't know enough about it to do more than cause trouble tonight, but I just want to make sure that we have, if we need access to the wellhead for maintenance and service, that we're not, banking on something that's going to be problematic from a conservation standpoint, wetland standpoint, and so forth, to be able to get, access in perpetuity to that wellhead service location.
Yeah. And this will probably, help you ease your mind on that in a little bit. I believe one of the conditions that we will get from COMCOM, because that was discussed in last meeting, is that if the new well location ends up being within the 100-foot of the wetland, which is the conservation purview, we're going to have to kind of like go back to them for the well, just to make sure they have a chance to look at that and that they feel comfortable with that location. So that's already part of the plan. So yeah, definitely a pretty good question, because COMCOM had kind of the same line of thought. So
thank you.
So just so I understand, just Wei, the existing well you said is a public water supply, but we can't reuse that because it comes too close to the buildings construction to fall to meet the zone, the no build zone or something like that.
So there are
You showed a
there
radius. You showed a radius
yeah
at the beginning of this discussion.
That was
yeah
for the town hall
yeah
well, not the fire department well.
yeah so
Understood.
exactly the town hall well it's the one up here. This is that zone one, that's the public one. The existing fire station, it's under a private well. That well is located right here. I don't know if you can see this little
Yep.
circle with the D.
Thank you.
That's the location of the existing. Well, no, I lied. It's right here, the one with the W.
Makes more sense than the D.
Yeah, so that one, it's the private one. I want to point out that one of the biggest kind of like things that we've been trying to coordinate is that under the thresholds from MassDEP of what's considered a public well versus private, as it currently stands, the proposed fire station would fall as a private well. However, the town is concerned about how the kind of like the training room will be used by the public, and they don't want to kind of constrain how much they can use it. The current plan is for the fire department to use that training room about 3 times per month, which it's about 36 times per year, and that's 50 people in that room. So technically, I don't want to get too technical on what the requirements are, but just to keep it simple, that leaves you with about 1 to twice per month for the public to be able to use the training room without the well having to be considered a public well. So that's where the town feels, the Board of Health in this case, and I even feel Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, that the building committee feels pretty similar to this, that they want to find a way in which that 1 to twice per month for the public use, how they can find a way not to constrain that. Not to say that they know for a fact they will use it more than that. They just want to know, can we decide in a way that we have the ability not to? So that's where the private versus public well kind of like the dilemma or situation comes from.
And the town hall well can't be used for this purpose.
No, because it's not out of the picture. It could be. It could be. We will have to do a feasibility analysis to know if it could be used, but that's a possibility, pretty much.
And the site plan activities within the zone 1 area of the town hall well is allowed per the well regs?
So that's a pretty great question. So where we land right now is that there are pretty specific regulations of what you can and cannot do within a zone 1. The biggest thing is you are not supposed to propose any infiltration systems there, which we are not. In theory, under regular circumstances, even adding impervious area, it's a pretty hard sell to DEP. However, they're also put a lot of importance into making it better than what it is right now. And that's our argument, because right now, under existing conditions, it will sound weird, but the existing leaching field actually is within the zone 1. Furthermore, a lot of this current impervious area under existing conditions, I'm going to flip really quick to my survey. All this impervious area here, this is the limit of the impervious area, currently flows untreated to the zone 1. So you're getting runoff from stormwater that is not being treated directed into that zone 1. So under proposed conditions, what we are doing now is, number one, that leaching field will be relocated to a location much farther, all the way in the front here. And number two, even though we're adding impervious area, all this area now, all the impervious area from the site will be fully treated before being discharged to the wetland that connects to the Zone 1. Furthermore, our discharge point is going to be kind of like the farthest it can be from the Zone 1. It will be all the way on this extreme of the wetland. So we're not only making it, we're not only treating the stormwater, we are sending it much farther. That will also help to provide additional, call it water, like natural water quality treatment that happens through the wetland system before it reaches the Zone 1. So that's the
Understood.
argument.
And so that well permitting process you expect to be concurrent with this permitting process? When is that process concluded?
So it will be a separate item, we hope for. We've been coordinating with the building inspector, and it's now confirmed that we need to have a permitted well to get building permits. That's why the goal is probably going to be to get the private well permitted, because it will be sufficient for the proposed project. And then that way we can start construction and move forward. And then as we work towards getting the public well permitted in some other areas, that, like I said before, it won't really have any impact on the actual scope that you see from a site plan perspective. It will just be longer routes pretty much for your water lines. And that's kind of the goal that we're shooting for.
I appreciate that your ability to jump around among the plans. That's super helpful. And thank you for sharing all that. As you were going through your presentation, were you moving on from what were you going to next? Because I have some site plan questions and I think the board may as well, and it might be beneficial to pause.
Yes, for sure. I was just gonna point, I think I was done with the portion of the site plan, and then we can listen to your questions, and then we have also Matt from Tecton to answer and go over site renders and building related questions. I also want to point out that if needed, we have it handy here, our official response to comments to Land Tech, that shows responses to each of their comments and how we address their comments. And like I said before, those comments should already be addressed on those plans. So yeah, I'm more than happy to listen to any side plans questions you have, and answer if possible.
Okay, I'll open up to the board. I have questions myself, but I'll open up to the board for site plan questions.
Not sure where to start.
Well, let's remember, let's maybe remember what our charge is. Understood that it's hard not to nerd out because that's what we do. So, we're looking at maybe Julie can kind of summarize for us the kind of purview of the planning board and what we're looking at from the standpoint of the site plan, circulation, safety, etc.
Yeah, so 1 second real quick. I'll just screen share with you guys. So under the zoning bylaw, the jurisdiction that you have under site plan review is listed here under 7.6.3.
Okay, so let's just look at that quickly. So that's protection of adjoining premises, convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement, adequacy as to the arrangement and number of parking spaces and loading spaces, adequacy as to the arrangement of proposed buildings, structures, freestanding signs, sighting, screening, landscaping, adequacy for the methods of sewage, refuse, and other waste disposal, protection of the town's resources, protection of the public health and safety, and maintenance of ways against extraordinary wear or damage. Is that the extent of 7.6.3?
Yes. And then under the planning board's rules and regulations for site plan review, the regulations do expand on these themes and then also include design review as well. And looking at the building in terms of its relation to the neighborhood character, in terms of scale, massing, architecture, all that. Okay. I can pull that up if you would like me to as well.
Um, no, I think that's fine. I was just trying to make sure that we kind of generally stay in our lane. And that's as much a message to me, Joe, as it is to you. So take it away.
So you provided turning movements as one of the files that you looked at for I believe it was coming into the facility, in particular to the first set of garage bays. And some of those movements show like they're pretty close to curb lines. And given that you're going to have a granite curb with a 6-inch reveal, I would have concerns about tire curb interface issues with flat tires. Is there anything that can be done to possibly address that? Given that your turning diagram comes fairly close, and I know won't be the same consistent movement each time, but I see that as a problem.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm gonna still the screen. Actually, am I sharing the wrong screen? I think
I know you've got a tapered curb someplace. I don't know if it's called out here or not, but that would solve my concern, obviously. But
so I think these are the turning movements you are referring to that we submitted with the
Yep.
application.
Yeah, in particular the bottom one. Right, you can see that making contact with the curb corner. We're pretty close.
Yeah, yeah.
Close enough that someone's going to hit that. Let's put it that way, or ride up over it. Which
yeah,
you're probably going to rip your sidewall or something.
yeah. So like us as a design team, and working together with the fire department, we feel confident that these work. But yeah, it's easy enough to either call for mountable curbs there, which could be call it 45-degree curb, or we can call for a flush curb there also.
Yep, that's
fine. We can expand the radius. Any preference on what you would like to see there?
The concern is you get a flat tire. That means that vehicle's down and can't respond to emergency. That becomes a safety issue. So
like if we
were, that's kind of what I'm getting to.
If we were to make the radius larger, like something similar to
that's
what I'm showing here. Okay, all right.
Minor detail, I'm just pointing it out from just observation. The other one is coming around the corner in front of the generator. You've got bollards, and again, looks like it's pretty close to one of the bollards there in terms of clearances. And I can envision trucks cutting that corner with the mid-ordered overhang of a truck, basically creasing that whole thing, exiting the garage. So,
well, that's
that's
coming in.
This is coming in, yeah.
Well, coming in and coming out, still it's turning. So so the lead end of whatever's there.
Yeah, this is the coming out now. Yep.
Right. So again, from a clearance perspective, it's
tight,
closer than I would prefer for comfort.
Yeah, like I said, we can look at these things for sure. We can, there's definitely great comments. I think we will look at those areas, see where there is room to add a few more things. I think the one thing that I just want to point out is that I don't know if the chief is here, but like we've worked with the chief together to get to this layout and make sure that they were confident. But it's always good to have a new pair of eyes that was not involved with the design to point out things that sometimes are not as apparent to people that are looking at this every day.
So the other thing with respect to turning movements is you show the lower half of the entrance section of the new facility, and I don't know if maybe Chief Sorrows has an opinion on this, but do we envision fire apparatus going around the back of the building that would be concerned about turning movements that would account for anything coming back there if necessary or needed, that would prevent that from doing that based on this layout?
So that's a pretty good question. Initially, they had concerns about this here. That's why this is the one drive that if I were to go to the site plans, this is the one that is, this is not the latest one, my bad. This is the old set that I just opened. This is the only one that is 24. And just for reference, this is the old set, the first one that was submitted to you, that was 22. So when we coordinated with the chief, they had concerns about high tide, how tight this was on the turning radius. So we made that 24, and then we come up with the, sorry for all the flipping between the screens, with this new layout that is now 24, and they felt way more confident. Like you can see how far is from the curbs in this instance. So yeah, that was an area of concern that has been worked out with the fire chief and the fire department.
Okay. You showed detention basins in your
So before we get there, I'm sorry,
Yep,
we
that's
just
fine.
want to, while we're on the turning radii, I had some questions here. I think the last time we met, we understood that the that fire apparatus would be coming the wrong way down the one-way section at times, and potentially conflicting with vehicular traffic, cars coming in and trying to get around the building. We had some concerns about that drive being one way, and that would result in that. It looks like from the turning radii that you provided that the apparatus is really only going the correct way down the one way. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we did. So this was a pretty, we had to kind of negotiate with COMCOM too. We were kind of in the middle of like, planning board wants more room, COMCOM wants less because of the proximity to the wetland. So the original plan set that was submitted to you was actually 14 feet. So we're still calling it one way because per your bylaw, I think anything less than, I could be wrong, but I think anything less than 22.
Just wait, that's not my question. My question is on the turning radius diagrams.
Yeah.
All the movements that go down that one-way section are shown as going the correct way down that one-way section, I believe.
Yep.
When we met at the beginning of March, maybe I'm misremembering. Are other people remembering this? That we understood that there was the potential for trucks to be coming the opposite direction down that one way. Correct? I see Joe nodding. And we were concerned with those conflicts. I'm just asking, is there an abandonment of this idea that the trucks would come the wrong way down that one way?
So I think, and maybe I took too long to get to my answer. I think what I will say is what I'll say is these are emergency vehicles. So in theory, they will do whatever they want when they need to do it, will be kind of like the short answer. However, it will not be the normal operation for them to go that way. However, and this is where I was going with my comment, we've made that wider from 14 to 19 to even have more room for the instances in which that might happen.
So do we still have the opportunity to make that 24 to?
At this point, I will have to go back to COMCOM. They were already so their point of view about this on COMCOM was, if it is required by the bylaws that you have to do it, go and do it. If this is something that is more of an ask and not really coming from the fire department, they weren't really too happy. So we got to a middle ground of like getting to 19 feet. So we made it wider than what it was, but not 24, because you are really, by pushing this, you need to push your parking spaces and you get really close to your wetland here when you add the grading and the tree clearing that you will have to do. Just to put in perspective right now, when you add your grading, this is how close you get to your wetland. You only have like 5 feet here. So
yeah, but if you make the roadway wider past that, I mean, you've got more than probably 10, 15 feet on average. You could put a 30-foot roadway against the building there and still.
No, I think it works. Well, it works. So the pinch hit is this corner of the building, which aligns with the parking. If I push the roadway, I need to push the parking. If I push the parking, I push the grading, which is going to pretty much land on the wetland. That's kind of like.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just going, but this is a 40-year project. The criteria is going to change over time in terms of needs. And not that I'm dismissing Conservation Commission here, but I've seen enough of this over the course of my time in public projects where, if they'd done the right thing up front, it would have caused less of an issue 20, 30 years down the road. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just making my observations, that I think it's better to do this now because it'll never happen later.
I'm not really sure what. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Sorry.
Can you explain a little more about the benefits of going to 19 feet? I mean, I understand there's more maneuvering room there between the building and the edge of pavement, but it's not tight. If there's a truck coming Page southbound and a passenger vehicle going northbound, they still won't be able to get past each other at 19 feet. So I'm not sure I understand the value of 19 feet versus 14 feet, just that there's more maneuvering room for the vehicles that are passing along that section of road.
Well, I guess the point was to try to give both boards a middle ground, right? One is telling me keep at 14, one is telling me make it 24. So we were, finding a middle ground of like giving more maneuvering to the truck, and that's as much as we can get without getting closer to the wetland. If the board feels that 19 doesn't really bring any benefit, I'm pretty sure COMCON will be really happy if we were to tell them that we're pulling this back to 14. But I honestly, as a site civil engineer, you could see a lot of municipalities out there. I will have to even go and check exactly what is it for your town. It's not 24. I think it's 22, the minimum requirement for a two-way drive. However, many municipalities have as little as 20 feet as a two-way drive. So in theory, you could have a truck and a car parked right there and do that. Are we expecting that to happen? Not really, but that's kind of how we landed on the 19.
By the arrow, I believe there's a person door, and I believe there's some bollards outside of that person door on a different plan, so it constricts down to less than 19.
That has been removed since.
The person door has.
The door is not there anymore.
Okay. I guess the other thing, just as we're discussing this, is that parking space that seems to be controlling the width of this section of road necessary to be there? Is there another location that parking space could be?
If I'm being honest here, like I think if you ask fire department, even the town hall right next, I think they would love to actually see more parking than what we're showing. We just can't because we have too many constraints with the wetland. We are out of room of where we can put any additional parking. Like if you were to follow all of this, adding more parking will be getting even closer to the wetland than what the current development is. And then on top of that, as you go to the back, you have pretty significant grade changes, and you have retaining walls here on the back. So it will not be an easy ask to add more parking without significant layout changes and cost implications.
So the other, thinking outside the box, the other potential way that you can create more space there is by pinching the building down by 2 or 3 feet, and pulling it. You can't shift it all the way over because then you can't get your sidewalk in front of your parking spaces on the other side. But could you lose 3 feet of width from the building before it gets to those truck bays?
I can answer that one, Josue.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, let me take that, Josue. So, not really, not without making a dangerous situation within the building itself for vehicle maneuvering. Typical design standards for an apparatus bay so that you have enough clearance to operate a door within the bays, get into the truck and clear the aisle is 22 feet bay to bay. So if we were to pinch the building down by 2 or 3 feet, we'd be having to take that away from that bay space or the firefighters access to get into the gear room. So we really can't pinch the building down any further on that side of the building to get any appreciable amount of site space.
I was actually not suggesting taking it out of the bays. I was suggesting taking it out of the, any comment? So we didn't get a sort of architectural floor plan really in the permitting set. We got it in the bid drawings that we got last week. And I'm just looking at this now and thinking, it looks like there's rooms here that could be shrunk a couple of feet without losing functionality. No? Was it considered at all?
I would, yeah, we've and happy to have the chief chime in if you'd like, but this building has been pinched to the point where if we start cutting any more, it starts to cause real programmatic challenges to their operations.
Okay.
So-
I think one of the sorry, go ahead, Joe.
One more option here. So we've got two side parking spots that are really pinching this down at the corner of the building here. Why can't we get rid of parking lot? What is it, number 2 there, the circle, whatever it is there, and then put it number 2, get rid of that first one there, right? That goes away. You scroll up to the other parking at the top of the back side of the facility. Add another parking spot to the right there, and that alleviates that whole issue.
You mean in the row of 4 or in the row of 10?
The row of 10.
I want to add that this is where we are threading the needle pretty close with different boards and what each kind of like board is doing their job actually pretty well on making sure that what they their board is set to do, they're doing it. And like the moment that you do this, which is kind of like what you were saying,
so you
there
move the wall
are
back maybe a foot, and the corner of that lot is the wall. So how much of an impact is that with conservation commission?
These has to do with, to the best of our ability also, at this instance, trying to minimize how much more we kind of get like closer and closer to the center of that public well, and how much more impervious area we're adding there, together with the location of the wall. Again, this is something that if the board feels strong about it, we could do.
How much of an impact are we talking here with 10 by call it 15 by 10 parking space, 15 by 8, whatever it is.
8, yeah.
I mean,
it's about, I want to point out that you need another, probably like right now, to be safe, you need about call it 10 feet almost from the edge of your parking to the end of your wall. So by the time you do that,
why do you need 10 feet?
Because this is a pretty big grade difference. So you have a guardrail, so you need enough separation between the curb and the guardrail, because the bumpers of the cars, they overhang. If not, people is going to hit the guardrail all the time. And then you need enough separation between the guardrail and the top of wall, because if not, your guardrail is pretty much conflicting with that top of wall. So like when you add a safe, you have a 0.5 curb, then you have another 3 feet for the guardrail. Again, you want to make sure that this guardrail, the post, they don't really conflict with.
Yeah, I get it. This looks to me like a design exception to make this work. And I'm not trying to cut you off, but I mean there are ways to work around this rather than sticking to and I won't call them arbitrary, but I know your guidelines you're trying to follow here, but I think it could be worked in here where you could mitigate this to make this work here, and then you increase the size of your roadway to, even if it's 20 feet or whatever it is, make it 2 lanes, and no one's getting stuck to get by in a bi-directional fashion for the next 40 years.
I understand. I just want you to know that unfortunately, between planning board and COMCOM, the design team, the applicant, or all of us, we are putting a really tough situation in which.
No, I got it. I'm not trying to put you in a hard spot. Yeah, the long-term benefit here for the functionality of the facility.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I'm not saying I disagree with one board or the other. I'm saying that actually both are doing what they're supposed to do. They are trying to really look at this. So it's more a matter that, like I said before, even with COMCOM, this will apply. Like the moment that I'm telling them I'm getting even closer to the wetland, for them is like, is this a requirement or is this a good thing to do? And that's where I'm like, like they could come back saying like, okay, do you really need this to be 24? So why are you putting that parking there? And like that's where I'm like, we are having a really tough time making sure that both boards are satisfied because some of the comments are conflicting each other.
So I could ask the same thing in Conservation Commission. Is this a requirement or is this a nice to have?
Well, for them, in theory, I do want to say that they already have a draft bylaw for wetlands that
Okay.
really regulates the work within the 25-foot buffer. So
Mhm.
it's really soon for them, like as soon as maybe this year, it's going to be a requirement to not get within 25 feet of the wetland.
That's fine. Okay. I'm exploring as much as I can to
Yep.
make it work for the long term. So
If
That's
it's
cool.
helpful, the east side of the drive is authorized personnel, and the left side is the public. So the
Yeah.
design of it was that the right-hand side, this is authorized personnel. For one thing, leaving out of there, the sight lines aren't as good. They're like coming out of the town hall, whereas the left, the western side, that's the side the public comes and goes out of. So that the public wouldn't necessarily be going through that
So
section.
that kind of leads to another general comment, which is sort of a signage and wayfinding set of plans that we haven't been able to evaluate. It would be helpful to be able to see that indicated on the plans.
See what exactly?
Signage.
Signage.
Stop
And
signs.
signage is
Register
specifically in
signs.
our purview, and I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
We could add a sign here saying authorized vehicles only. That could be done, and a similar one could be added, somewhere along this general area too, so the public doesn't really go past this area, like some kind of signage.
No, the public goes through the back, but they come and go through the west side.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So like maybe just another sign
Right
here, right? Like one
Yeah, and
here.
I think right. And it's are you saying, Chief, as well, that because the sight lines from that eastern driveway are not great, that the intent is not for the public to park in the eastern side parking spaces either? It's really for them to enter and exit on the left side, on the west side, and use the parking spaces on the side and in the back.
Correct.
So given that that's a change in the pattern that from what we really have today, it'd be helpful to also have signage out at the road.
Chief, yeah, I think we can have that conversation separately, because I think we can have that.
The exception was that we wanted town hall people to be able to use the electric
EV, yes.
EV parking.
Fine. Yep. I think you can cover that in signage.
Right.
I feel like we've beat this parking to death, but I have one last idea. There's north of the proposed building, there are two east-west spaces. If you go up now, go to the right.
Here?
Those two. Could you add two more of those above those two and then delete the 4 and just make that 3? I realize that would make the landscape area smaller, but it looks like you could get 2 spaces there. You would gain 2 spaces. You would make the two spaces become 4 spaces, and the 4 spaces become 3 spaces.
Yeah, that could be done. I do want to point out this is merely the 3 feet that we were saying. So if you have larger trucks parking there, like if somebody parks on this space, kind of like almost in line with the curb, as you know, you can't really control where people like real lines on the parking. You are risking like these bumpers, like kind of like this will like what you are stating right now is to do that, right?
Yeah, though it wouldn't be that wide.
No, it would just be the width of the 2 spaces.
No, I know what you're saying. It will be there, so it will get almost all the way up here. So I want to add that by doing that, you're adding extra constraints for the trucks to turn here because now
It looks like
this
the forward spaces could be nudged a little bit to the little bit south. Yeah, a little bit of room there.
Yes, I don't want to look like I'm saying no and no. There are other conditions like you don't want like this is like a safe 5 feet that you want from your building. It's like a typical hammerhead that you have from the edge of a parking as people is backing out. So there are things that could be done. I'm not saying I'm just saying now we get into the okay, what do we give to get something else? And that's where it gets tricky now.
So I think that the team has our feedback here. We're concerned about the safety of that drive aisle. Authorized personnel access helps. If that's the case, signage is critical. I'm not saying that we should dismiss this, but I think it's worth having the team just take another look at whether or not that one parking space can be not lost, but can be accommodated elsewhere so that we can convince ourselves that this truly is, you've got quite a brain trust here, guys, to be perfectly honest. So it's worth convincing us and convincing ourselves that you've done what you can and that we believe that this is the best solution. So we can move on from this item, I believe. Are there other comments on the site layout?
Just one quick one. So you showed detention tanks, I guess, under the right.
Yep.
And so will there be any need for access to those that we need to provide, that we need to be concerned about?
No, so those things, all they will need is what we call inspection ports. So you see these little circles here?
Yep.
Those are openings that you can just pop up
Okay.
and like
So they just
like
need to put a camera down there or whatever else.
a
That's
camera or like
Yep.
like a palm truck. Yep.
I just didn't know how big the vault was, or that someone needed to get in there, or something needed to happen for.
No,
repairs
these
or anything
are
else.
these are actually pretty shallow. The top of the chamber is about 190 and the
2.5.
bottom of the
All
chamber,
right.
so
Yeah.
these are only 2.5. Yeah,
Yeah,
these are
okay,
pretty
that's fine.
shallow.
I didn't see that. Thank you.
Patty, I have one final question. And I'm mindful of the pile of snow that's still out in front of my house, despite these warm temperatures that we've had. Have you identified a way that you'll remove snow in the wintertime and how that will be handled?
Yeah, I want to point out that I want to start with if you get big storms like we were getting recently, I guess at that point everybody's over capacity, right? Like nobody knows where to really put it. For the most part, we are being inclined on this project to propose locations within parking spaces to also show us snow. Many of the concerns that the Conservation Commission had was about, pushing snow down the areas where we're really close to the wetland edges. So there are signs there, kind of saying, sensitive. I'm gonna show it on this plan. Approximate location of sensitive wetland areas nearby, now dumping signs. So like this area really close to the wetland won't be able to have snow. You can't, because this is a zone 1, you can't bring snow from other parts of the project and put it here. That's a no-no. So you are constrained with pretty much these areas. And we have a snow storage plan within the stormwater report that was submitted. But like you are left with like these locations, their locations here on the front, and then you could use these spaces here to store the snow that is collected from the zone 1, but not from the outside. So to answer your question, if you get a lot of snow during those instances, we will probably be using impervious area to store most of that snow, if there is no ability to actually take it off the site.
So I think this is another aspect of the signage package that we would like to have a purview over. We do have purview over, and we'd like to see. I think it's going to get pretty complex to have signage that explains about zone 1 storage and not storage. I know that the chief has good control over the operations and maintenance of the site today, but distant future when other people are in charge of this. It's just got to be really clear what you can and can't do.
Who plows this site? DPW or the fire department?
Chief.
So
do you,
yeah, it's done by the DPW generally. We use our private vehicles at times to assist.
So just for reference, and I'll give, well, the past big storm we had over this year. How was that addressed?
We have, I mean, it's just pushed to the sides right now.
Mhm.
The town in the past has brought down front end loaders and loaded it into
You farmed it someplace else. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. This year was just pushed out into the grass.
So we would typically see on the site, the civil site plan, the snow storage areas. So if that can be added, that would be helpful as well.
Yep.
So I have another site plan question that I'll just jump in on, which is that I believe that the tower that is to the north of the proposed addition, kind of near where the EV handicap parking space is remaining.
Yes.
It's not shown really, it's not shown clearly as such. It's not shown as being demolished on the demolition plans. It's just meaning like when you showed us your rendered site plan, it wasn't depicted on the rendered site plan. When you're kind of thumbing through the civil site plan, the utility plan, all that stuff, it looks like a background element because it's pre-existing, but it's important to note that there is this fence that's around it, right? And that fence that's there today is to remain. So that has a visual impact as well. So that should be depicted on the plans that we look at so we understand what that is.
Yeah. So is this what yeah, we can find a way to better depict it right now on the demo plan that is CP 101 on the permitting set, which is the plan that has any information pertinent to existing site conditions or features to remain or be demolished. We are calling it to remain, tower and the fence. And then everything else, we're just making sure that we don't show any proposed work conflicting with that. But if you want us to like maybe show, this
Well, let me ask
differently.
my colleagues, did folks, when reviewing the site plan, did you appreciate the fact that there was a pre-existing tower in that location that was to remain? And did you understand how it fit with the proposed site plan?
I didn't pick up on that.
It was I picked it up in the last review that it's still there. Is it going to be included in the renderings? I'm not sure.
It is, and these
That's
are the
better.
renders that Matt was planning on going over. So Matt, sorry, I'm gonna quickly flip to that one just for reference. So this is one of the revised renders that we were planning on going over.
Yeah.
I think it's important because so much of this site is being rebuilt. I think it's important to depict on the site plan what previously existing elements are remaining in the state that they're in. So for instance, there's also the stairs down from the front entrance.
Yeah, that's gone.
And the walk that goes down to it, goes
gone.
down to land at now a retaining wall. Is that to remain?
No, all of that is to be gone per the demo plan. So that front door is no longer going to be used. Those steps are gone. Walks is gone. These walls are gone. They're going to be redone under the proposed work. So all of that is gone.
So when you look at this site plan, you can't tell the difference. The proposed site plan, you can't tell the difference between those two elements because you'd have to see it in the context of the demo plan, right? So I think it's important to show in the proposed site plan what will be there in the future when it is all built out, including that tower.
I believe
Okay,
the
so yeah.
steps will still be there. The walkway will be gone.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm just saying when you look at the site plan, you can't tell the difference.
Right.
Yeah, we can add kind of like some kind of hatch or something around this antenna and make sure that it's called out in every plan to be clear. Like this is the one aspect that is remaining. And we can make sure that it pops up in every plan for sure.
Just one further question about that front walk and the front door. It is the front door to remain. So it's hard to tell. Is that being kind of bricked
Yes,
over?
it will be. It'll remain as an exit to the building, and just will not be a front door anymore. The glass will be frosted, and it won't look like an entrance anymore. But it will be a viable exit.
So it's an exit that takes you out onto lawn.
Yes. Just
Is it a means of egress?
yes.
Is that compliant with?
I mean, not illegal, but that's the idea is that you should have another way to get out without having to go out a window, and the door exists. There's no point in.
It is not part of the building egress system.
Correct.
It's an additional accessory egress.
Okay.
Correct.
That's what I was getting at. Thank you. So that mezzanine space that's in that area doesn't need a direct means of egress to the outside.
No, that's all just accessory storage once this project is complete.
Okay. All right, should we move on to architecturals and renderings?
Yeah, Matt. So
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I have one more question on the site plan. So, and I'm wearing my Sarah Smith hat. She had some concerns about the turning radii for wheelchair access at the parking spaces, the accessible parking spaces at the front entrance. And so I guess the question is, have these plans been reviewed by a code consultant, specifically a accessibility consultant?
What was the concern again?
The wheelchair radius to get from the parking space, parking spaces to come down the sidewalk, kind of headed south.
So here?
Rotating where the sidewalk turns there. Yeah, exact. No, more page south. Actually south. Yeah, just that corner and coming
This one?
around that. Yep, that's where her concern was.
Well, Matt, you can answer if that's been reviewed, but like I just want to point out this is at 11-foot walk here.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's more the 5 foot. It's the 5 foot pinch there, and the kind of you've got that warning strip, which presumably is a ramp, right? Up to
No, the ramp, all of this is flush. There is no ramp. And that warning strip, it's compliant with accessibility. So like people that need accessibility should be able to go over those pretty easily. So it should not oppose like any kind of movement, the strip there.
Okay.
There is no ramps there.
Okay. Matt, do you want to just comment about accessibility code review?
Yeah, so we don't have a third party code reviewer for this project. We do our code reviews in house. We have a licensed building official on staff. These have been reviewed and peer reviewed in our office, and we don't have any concerns with turning radiuses along this accessible route.
Okay. Julie, should I take comments from the public at this point before we move on to the architecture, the elevations, etc., or should we keep going?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And then you also have Andrea Tavares here from Land Tech, and she did the civil and stormwater peer review. If you want to talk to her.
So I have one other question, Addie. I'm not sure where this fits in, but it's with respect to I commented about the paving in front of the doors being versus concrete, and one of the details shows something else. But we can talk about this later if it's something else we'll bring it up later or now. It doesn't matter.
No, go ahead, bring it up.
So on your detail sheet for your heavy pavement, you show welded wire mesh in asphalt. I don't particularly agree with that. I don't think it's a good idea. Not sure what the benefit is in terms of trying to get that to be a more structural bituminous concrete. There are probably other methods that are better suited to do that with corrosion, adhesion, and a bunch of other things that go along with that holding up over time. And then additionally on top of that, I know there's 4 feet on top of the detention tanks that are listed below that. But I assume the detention tanks are rated to support the weight above that, plus the weight of the truck, etc. That's going to hold up over time without failing. So if someone could speak to that, that'd be helpful.
You're muted, Josue.
Thank you, Matt. So we have 2 different details here. It could be confusing. So the one that calls for the welded wire mesh is just for the heavy duty concrete pavement. Those are the ones directly adjacent to the building. It's what we call like that concrete little ramp entrance into your apron. That's the only area that we call for that heavy duty situation. Then you have so that's concrete, and then you have a different detail for asphalt pavement. Asphalt pavement doesn't really have any kind of wire mesh or anything like that. It's just typical pavement with your track code.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it says bituminous concrete top.
Bituminous
is asphalt.
Yeah, so that's
asphalt.
So that's a typo.
So it's concrete.
Yeah, that's a typo.
Fine, you've addressed my concern.
Yep, sorry, I missed that by 2 minutes there. Good catch.
Okay. I'm good. Except I'd like concrete there, but.
Right. If we can maybe hear from the peer reviewer, just kind of a quick summary of the items raised on the peer review and the ways in which they were addressed, that would be super helpful. And then I'll go to public comment.
Sure. Hi, I'm Andrea Tavares from Land Tech Consultants. We were hired to be the civil engineer peer reviewer for this project. So Julie has provided us with every plan set and all of the submittals to date, including the most recent one, which I had time to look over the response letter. I haven't had time to look over the drawings themselves with the changes made, but we had very minor comments on the plan set and the stormwater report. We talked about tonight the turning radiuses. That was something that hadn't been provided to us previously, but they were provided to us with this latest plan set submittal. So that was one of our comments. We had other comments pertaining to soil testing within the stormwater systems themselves, since the soil testing was concentrated for the septic design. So we made the suggestion to do soil testing prior to construction and to report those findings to us. We have a pretty good handle on the soil type that's out there, but we just want to confirm depth to groundwater and or refusal, just to make sure that those two subsurface stormwater chamber systems are designed adequately. We had other minor comments, just some typos on the plans and the application themselves, pertaining to the engineering design itself. We did think it was a pretty comprehensive plan set and stormwater calculations and report that was provided. So we really did not have any other major comments to bring before the board.
Great, thank you.
Addie, do you want Andrea to stick around?
No, I think you can go, Andrea. Thank you for your time. Sorry it took me so long to get to you.
That's okay.
If I may, just before you leave, Andrea, I just want to make sure that you saw the geotechnical boring logs that were done as part of this project, because there were 2 borings that were in the area of the detention basins that might help you on that. In particular, boring 1, which was over the larger installation to the east. We didn't hit refusal until 21 feet below grade, and we did not encounter wet or damp soils within that.
Okay.
And then the other one on the west side of the building.
Matt, are these shown somewhere on the plan set?
Yeah, they are on the on-end report. And Matt, before Andrew leaves, I think their comment, Andrew, if I'm remembering this correctly, was about, I think somebody looked at some of the borings that were there. They were just saying that it would be good to do some additional testing before construction starts, just to confirm those, just like stormwater testing, not necessarily to be done now, just right before construction. So what we did was we did add a call out on the plans, and we called those out, and we called it out right here. So I don't think it's something that necessarily to be worried. So perform exploratory test page to confirm groundwater elevation prior to construction. So this is more like a extra confirmation of what we saw on the geotech borings. So I believe that's where you guys were coming from, Andrea. That's the way we read it, and we added that note.
Yes, exactly. And that's just to be in conformance with the stormwater management standards, and just to exactly to confirm groundwater separation and to make sure that the design is adequate.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I have one more thing for Andrea. Well, it's not really for Andrea, but it's part of the report that she gave. She talks about that, the difference between 66 Westford Street and 80 Westford Street. And I know it's all on the same parcel, but while we're going through all this, I don't know if this is a dumb question or not, but should we maybe think about putting the fire station on a different parcel than the rest of the town land?
Sounds like a select board question.
Yeah, our comments were just related to, I think the 66 versus 80 were confused a couple of times in the application itself and on the stormwater report. 66 is the town, and 80 is the fire station. So those were where our comments were coming from. We didn't actually, we weren't making any type of recommendations for any type of parcel reallocation or new numbers or any type of differentiation between the actual numbers. But certainly I'll defer to the board for any other recommendations.
Well, actually, the thing was I thought you brought up a good point in pointing that out, that, we've got technically the kind of the same address for, like, if you go to some of the maps, I think even our Access GIS, and plug in 80 Westford Street, you get no parcel. So, and if somebody's trying to find the fire station on our own GIS, they would get no parcel. So and on top of that, it is an opportunity to put it within one single, the district that doesn't require 2 acres. You can have it be exactly what it needs to be. And, I don't think I'm hopeful it wouldn't be a ton of extra money, thousands maybe, but, to have it on its own parcel.
Yeah, I think that's a more of a legal and select board question, Chris. I'm not saying that we shouldn't ask it, but maybe, I don't know. Julie, do you have any idea how I mean, obviously if there's a well that's going to end up elsewhere quite far away, that could complicate that effort, right?
Yeah, I think let's see how this all pans out, and then maybe that's something for the future.
So with the existing project, are we up against any hard deadlines to get this done because of regulatory requirements for the fire department or whatever else for the town?
So the Matt, somebody else can elaborate. I think the biggest thing we had right now, our goal, we knew we were, pretty tight from the beginning, was to get the reviews that were required by planning board, conservation commission, and board of health done before the addenda process is completed. So we can make sure that all these comments are incorporated into the final conform set, that it's the official one, that you get the bids on pretty much. And like it was talked about earlier on this meeting, there could be up to 2 more, maybe a little bit more addendas, with the last one being, and somebody speak about this, I don't think there are set dates, but we're probably looking about, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 weeks more of time to accommodate any small tweaks through addendas. So it comes back within the bids that we get from the bidders. That's at least from the side civil perspective, the biggest thing that we're trying to accommodate. That's why we tried to move pretty quick last week when we received comments from Land Tech and ComCom to address those right away. So when we submitted on Friday to the addenda, those were already incorporated into that addenda. So the less open items that we have and the less big changes we make as the time moves on, the better, because we don't want bidders to come back saying, hey, you made a huge change now. But that's kind of where we stand. I know that was a big concern, like the cost and everything, being accounted for when the bids come back.
As for the Mass GIS, I believe that's populated largely from our assessor, and since this is not a text building, I think that's largely how that got missed out, but the police station, fire station, and town hall, I believe, are all on what's considered one parcel.
Oh, the police station's on a different parcel.
Mhm. Okay.
Pretty sure.
That's when I saw when I looked, but I could have been wrong.
Okay, so I'd like to move on to take some public comment on site plan, not architecture. Is there anybody in the meeting who would like to? Oh, hi, Sarah.
Hello.
How's
Keep
it
going.
going? Anybody in the meeting who would like to raise their hand and ask any questions or comments on the site plan?
Yes, thank you. This is Chip Doing. I can't seem to figure out how to raise my hand, but I'm speaking up in any way, in any event. If you can take the time now, I can give you some of my comments.
Sure. I'm acting surprised because I would have thought you would have needed to be given the ability to come off mute. Julie, do we have?
I did not restrict that tonight. The Zoom has
Oh.
new settings, so I was able to restrict certain things, but I didn't have to restrict everything. So
Got it. Okay.
but I would recommend for people to use the raise hand feature if they can.
Okay.
But go ahead, Chip.
Okay, thank you. I have a few short comments to share and will be happy to answer any questions at the end. My comments focus primarily on the site plan. At first glance, it seems that there simply isn't enough room on this site to adequately fit the program. The storage building is located on a steep part of the site, resulting in costly retaining walls.
Chip, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I need your address. Sorry.
Sure, 36 South Street.
Okay, thank you. Continue, please.
Yeah. The storage building is located on a steep part of the site, resulting in costly retaining walls and stairways. Also, because of its industrial aesthetic, it really doesn't belong on a scenic road at an entry point into town. It seems that a considerable expense in landscaping has been added in an effort to screen the building. Shouldn't there be a better place for it? Regarding the septic system, the limited space on the site leaves few options for the location of the leaching field. The resulting mound is unsightly and difficult to screen and is also on a scenic road. Vehicle circulation. The site circulation seems a bit confusing to me. Are there two entrances for the public or only one? Parking spaces have been scattered about the site, which can add to the confusion of finding an available space. The clearance for the overhead door openings for fire trucks on the inside corners of the building is very tight and is likely to require additional maneuvering. Regard to the public water supply, which you covered fairly extensively in the presentation, the program and the number of people expected to use the station for meetings and gatherings is likely to require a public water supply, which can take several months to approve. Has the location, the design, and cost of this been taken into account? Where will all the people attending the meetings park their cars? We have lived in town for over 52 years and have always supported the fire department. We lost our house to a fire in 1985 in spite of the heroic efforts of the firefighters. I want to support the proposed fire station, but the compromises brought on by the lack of available space on the site is concerning. The difficulties the police station experienced while trying to expand on a tight site should be a lesson. Nearly all of my concerns are the result of what I believe is too much program for too little site. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chip. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to contribute, ask a question on the site plan?
You have Ben Herder, Addie.
All right, Ben.
Hi, Ben Herder, 517 Bedford Road. I share some of those concerns that were just brought up. And I have another question as it relates to the site plan. In general, what I'm mostly interested in learning about is what is the streetscape perspective? How do the public view this from the street and, outside of the site? Be good to understand how this impacts the context along Westford Street. In particular, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the site lighting plans. You might be getting into that with the architecture, but if we're talking about site lighting, it would be good for everyone to understand what the specifications are for this lighting, what the quantity is, what the locations are, so on and so forth. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anybody else?
I don't see any.
Okay. Any other follow-ups from the board?
No, thank you.
I would like to just see I don't know if we're going to scroll through all those renderings, but
Yeah, so that was what I was going to get to next, Eric, was architecture related items. So we'll hand it back over to the project team to take us through the renderings.
All right. Patiently, but we made it. Good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Salad with Tecton Architects. So the view you're looking at here, this is the view from Westford Street right along the intersection where it forks off to Rockland Road. You can see in the left the accessory outbuilding on the left of your screen. That's a pre-engineered metal building. The intent there is to provide accessory storage of additional apparatus vehicles and a lot of the materials that the fire department uses in response to a number of calls that are currently stored in the back of the site in a series of tents that are sort of scattered about around the radio tower at present. So being a pre-engineered metal building, they only come in a few different flavors, so to speak. So that is it's a horizontally ribbed insulated metal panel with a metal roof. Few gutters and downspouts, and then the site stair that Josue pointed out that goes along the back. We are providing a row of trees and shrubs and things like that to provide some screening to the roadway. What you're looking at in the rendering is sort of a day one installation that'll certainly fill in over time. Off to the right, we have more screening around the transformer and the generator area.
Matt, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt for a second? Just as a clarification, the planting that's shown here is different than what's shown on the site plan. Is the site plan the most current iteration of the landscape, or is this?
The site plan is the most current. Yeah, I think the one thing that's different is this has the trees are sort of staggered in the rendering, and then there's that mulched area off to the right. Those the trees are more of a line in the site plan, and then that little mulched area doesn't occur.
And the red trees are not on the site plan. The trees that are shown in red in front of the outbuilding are not on the site plan. There are trees that are near the road that are, I think they're the Acer rubens, and I don't know what the red ones are.
Yeah, the landscape plan that we have from the bid drawings does not show trees.
You should not look at the bid drawings for your review. Only for architectural stuff, the bid drawings. You should use
So
the.
is the plan on the screen reflective of the bid drawings?
So
I'm looking at
want to
the
point.
permitting plan set that also doesn't show trees in that
So-
area.
So the permitting plan set that was submitted, the last one is this one. This is the one in response to land tech comments. This is the one dated, well, date is not correct on that one. Is the one dated 3/26/2026. That's the one we sent last Friday, around 10:30 a.m. This is the latest set. That's what I was trying to say. Like the bid documents that Matt sent are the original bid documents, not the addenda documents that went out on Friday.
No, and I understand that things have been, that things are in process and the renderings might not have caught up, but I just want to make sure that as people are looking at the renderings, that they may not reflect the current iteration of either the site plan or the architecture with some of the specific locations of the features. Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Interrupted.
No, it's good to, coordinate all these because there's been a lot of moving pieces. So it's
And just
certainly
to be
confusing.
just to be clear, as it relates to submissions that get to us timely, they really need to be in by Thursday, before our meetings. Our town planner does not work on Fridays. So we got this plan set this morning.
I agree. And yeah, like we will normally, we got the comments, I think like Tuesday or something. So we weren't really expecting, being honest, the board to have the time to review this in time. We just thought that at least we could say, hey, we have submitted it. But you are right. We were not really under the impression that the board or Land Tech was going to have enough time to look at these for sure.
Okay, so just on the same point here, below grade in that location, according to the utility plan, you have a significant amount of infrastructure.
Yes. Yeah, and in fact, part of the intent of that outbuilding is it serves as the fire pump to bring a fire suppression system that does not currently exist into the main fire station building. It's one of the advantages of having that steep grade that exists there currently is underneath the slab of that building are 40,000 gallons of fire cisterns that live within that structure, as well as the fire pump that delivers fire suppression water to the rest of the fire station building itself.
Yeah, but I'm referring to the pump sewer chamber, the septic tank. Do the trees conflict, I guess is the question.
They will be fully coordinated with those. Again, these are things that are, being worked out. For the most part, we have worked that around on this plan. Like I said, the permitting said these locations that you see here, we've been working to avoid. That's why you see like this gap between these three and this is because this is where you have your septic right here, and then here's where you have other utilities. So that's kind of like you can see. So like it's straight in the middle. A lot of these planting are not like really long roots. So yes, we are working and making sure coordinating that all of that is fully coordinated on that end.
Okay, well, I think we'd like to see that coordinated to be sure that we will actually end up with those trees. Because it doesn't look like it's going to work based on just flipping back and forth between the two plans.
Yeah, we can get you, like if you want us to provide a landscape plan with the utilities on, so it's clear and easy to depict that it's not conflicting, we can do that for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
One other question while we're on this elevation. Oh, sorry. Does anybody else
Yep.
from the board have questions while we're on this elevation?
Did you already talk about signage? I apologize. I missed a lot of this.
Yes, we did. We
Okay.
talked about the need for a detailed signage plan that everything from what to do with excess snow to authorized vehicles only, et cetera.
Okay.
I guess the only question I have at this elevation, again, for the accessory building, the note that I saw on the bid set said standing seam metal roof for that structure.
That's correct.
It doesn't look like it's depicted in that rendering, but I'm just, again, not to put too fine a point on it, but I personally would like to see like a spec or a cut sheet for both the roofing material and the siding material to understand how accurate this rendering is to what is actually going to be built, given the proximity of that structure to the road and the fact that it's kind of more of a utilitarian structure in such a visible location.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that.
Thank you.
One of the other things you'll see in this view, just to the right over the existing building, row of windows up high, there is a monitor roof that is visible from that's over the center of the building, bringing some natural daylight into some of the deeper spaces up on the second floor. If you want to go to the next rendering.
Wait, before you get there, I have one more
Yep.
question. I know I'm not supposed to be looking at the bid drawings, guys, but I'm seeing VRF condensing units hanging from or in the mechanical plans, MP 210, that look like they're in the vicinity of where those windows are that we're seeing to the right of the garage bays. Maybe they're shielded by the transformer in this case. Just wondering if those are
Those are
building
existing.
mounted,
I
pad
think
mounted.
those are existing conditions.
Well, it's shown on the plan.
Yeah, those are existing to remain. They're there on the building now.
Okay, so to the extent you can see them on this plan, or in this rendering, I think you should show them. If you can't see them from this rendering and from this view, then that's fine.
Don't think that you can, but if you can, we will show them.
The radio tower, antenna tower, sorry,
Yeah, and the antenna.
not shown here.
And
Would
then
it be visible?
they might be more visible coming from the other side too, like coming from town. So I would check both views, both angles. You're coming from higher up on the other side. Can you go back to, you said there were some sort of monitor on that let light. Is that what, could you just describe again where we would see that on the outbuilding?
It's not on the
outbuilding. It's on the main building. You can just see it just off to the right, just poking above the existing building roof. There's also a series of mechanical units up on the roof of the new building. Those are modeled. If you could see them, you would in these renderings. They're not visible from the ground plane. Same thing with the roof-mounted solar array. That's all sitting at level or below parapet wall, so you wouldn't see that from the ground view either.
And that mechanical equipment is modeled based on the actual specs.
Yep.
So it was a surprise to me that there wasn't more mechanical equipment on these roofs. Is this an all-electric building?
Almost all electric. The only gas-fired appliance as part of this project is a backup boiler to serve the radiant heated slab for the new apparatus bay.
Backup boiler to serve the radiant heated slab. What's the primary?
Electric.
So there's a radiant electric in the slab?
That's correct.
Is it that the glycol loop is heated by a heat pump boiler, or is it
Yes,
that?
that's correct.
Okay.
And
What
why do
about-
you need a backup for that?
Because heat pumps don't work well below 20 degrees. And when these fire trucks are coming back from an emergency response, when it's really cold out, like we've had in these winters, all the hose and pipe that come on that truck is frozen solid. And they need to be able to have a very short recovery time in order to get that vehicle back up and operational for the next call. So if it's 10 degrees below zero out or 0 degrees and that heat pump isn't efficacious enough, then that fire truck is going to return to the station and be down for a considerable amount of time. So by providing the gas-fired backup for that system, it allows that recovery time to be significantly reduced and ultimately provides for a better performing building for the delivery of fire service. This was a lengthy discussion with the building committee, town sustainability, and the select board.
Also has a significant effect on the size of the generator.
Correct. Yeah, we were able to reduce the generator by 100 kW by doing that as well.
But that implies it's not a backup. It's actually going to be used. It's not like it seems more like a primary source than a backup source.
It becomes the primary source when the weather is cold enough that the heat pump will not be efficacious.
And
But that-
radiant heat works better for thawing these things out than
It does.
than
It does a number of things. It does a better job of keeping the heat under the truck where they need it. It does a good job of quickly drying out the apparatus bay floor, which is a safety issue when that's wet. So it helps dry that out as well. And it's a more efficient method of heating the apparatus bays themselves.
I look, I don't want to get it. I'm not an engineer, but that just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. That slab has has a heat capacity of whatever the thickness of that slab of concrete is. When the truck pulls out to go to the call, I mean that slab should be a constant temperature, whether it's heated with electricity or gas. And when the truck comes back with frozen hoses, I don't see the slab temperature decreasing substantially rapidly. But I don't know. I mean, it seems, well, anyway, I'll stop there.
So does the existing building have this feature?
Does not.
Do we have any sense of what it costs to operate that versus it just seems like we're heating the outside. Are the garage bays inside or outside? I mean, this is not our purview, obviously, but it was just surprising to me when I didn't see much. I expected to see more condensers on the roof, etc. So it was just a surprise to me. But understood that you've had extensive discussions about it.
Yeah, this is a radiant heated slab is the pretty standard installation for most fire stations.
Even post specialized code.
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially
we put one in for the Lexington's fire headquarters about 5 years ago.
That
was the
wasn't
first.
post
That was
specialized code.
That wasn't, but that was the first one that was used in a heat pump system to heat the glycol loop actually in the world.
Have they kicked the gas-fired backup boiler on?
They don't have one for that. I can't recall. I think they do have one for that, and yes, it does run. No, that was all electric. I'm sorry, that was fully electric for that system.
Well, I've got to say it actually makes perfect sense to me because I have a heat pump and I know it's way less efficient in cold weather. But I guess my question is, I lost my question.
It'll come back to you,
Sorry.
Chris.
For me, it's just a matter of dollars. Like having a redundant heating system. Well, I guess it's not totally redundant because you're still using a glycol hydronic heating system with the heat pump. It's just got a boiler. So really your initial upfront cost difference is just adding the boiler, gas piping, Is this on a natural gas system or propane?
Natural gas.
Okay, so relatively inexpensive given the givens. Okay.
Eric, you've had your hand raised for a bit, and I think it's on this topic. So
No, what I wanted to do is I wanted to suggest that it's better thought of as a boost rather than a backup. And it is, what we had decided as a committee was the best option given the operational concerns and constraints of the fire department, but still being within specialized codes, so on and so forth. So it did get a lot of review.
Eric, does it trigger the requirement for additional offsets because now we have a fossil fuel burning appliance?
It did, and that's how we ended up with 30 kilowatts of solar panels.
Do we have a sense of what the system kind of combined costs up front relative to the alternative? Are you pricing an alternate?
You have to be careful. So Matt can speak a little bit better to this, but at the time of the conceptual design, which was, the starting budget, so to speak, at the October, November timeframe, that I believe was just a full natural gas system. It was a very early stage conceptual design. So it is a tick up from that. But then we did go through and look at a different couple different options for how to do that. And, the electrification and using heat pumps was a big part of it. As it's already been stated that radiant floor heating is a good selection in large open spaces and fire stations in particular. And it was really just that boost option that we needed to address. And, that's how we ended up in that system.
Right, but that also then drove to having to do the 30 kilowatts of solar, right? Because
correct.
Yes.
Yep.
That's what I sort of meant by the full cost.
Yeah, the full cost. Yeah, yeah.
So I apologize. I lost my sound here for a bit. But I did remember my question, and that is there an automatic switchover at a certain temperature? And I apologize if it's already been answered.
I believe the answer is yes, as well as automatic switchover when you're on generator power.
Sounds good.
the directive of the building committee to the fire department was that they will not operate the gas-fired backup boiler until such time that the temperature was below a cold enough temperature in which the heat pump would no longer be performing its job. So this is really in those rare instances like we've had this winter where we had that long cold stretch. So this is not a everyday thing or when it's convenient to be used. It's when it's a necessity.
So Matt, sorry, just one more question. So we're going to invest in this 30 kW solar array. Are we going to benefit from that on the years and majority of times when we're not? I mean, in other words, is there batteries that we're charging? Or can we leverage net metering here? Is there any benefit to the town other than just the offset to have the boiler?
The town will own them.
The town owns them, and there are net metering. So I don't have all the details on the current tariffs, but yet we would get the benefits of that. No batteries, though.
Okay, no, that answers my question. Thank you.
And this is not part of a PPA agreement. This is town owned, part of the bid package. So you reap 100% of the benefits of the power generation,
including solar energy credits.
Thank you.
Okay. Should we move to the next elevation?
Sounds great. All right, thanks, Josue. So this is a little bit zoomed into the front entry of the fire station. This is where the addition meets the existing building at the public entry. So we have a pre-engineered metal canopy at the front with some dimensional lettering identifying this as the Carlisle Fire Station. We have a light fixture just below that, which is sort of that classic red globe that identifies a typical fire station. Windows and entrance systems on this are all fiberglass entrance systems. And then the majority of the entry facade and around the rest of the building is a combination of ground face and split face CMU. We have a earth tone that you can see meeting the building. It's sort of in line or complementary to the precast band that goes around the existing fire station itself. We were pretty intentional not to use brick on this one. That it's a fairly nice brick that the existing building is built with, and trying to match that or be complementary to it wouldn't really work well. So we went with the ground face and split face block. Initially, this was rendered when we went to the select board last fall as insulated metal panel and ground face block. When we ran the cost estimate during design development and realized that we were tracking higher above budget and went through the value engineering exercise, we, working with our cost estimator by changing to ground face and split face block, we're able to reduce almost $250,000 or more just out of the facade of this building. So it made good fiscal sense to switch over to this. It's a more robust, you have a little bit more longevity out of this material. And it's actually pretty similar to a lot of the exterior finishes that you have at the school, just on the other side of the town center. There's a lot of ground face and split face block in insulated metal panel on that building as well. Just above and just out of frame that you could have seen from the previous rendering, there's a cast stone medallion just over the right windows, identified with the fire department town seal cast into that, just to help identify the entry a little bit more as well. If you want to head to the next rendering.
Wait.
Sure.
I think your curbs there are flush. Is that right? Meaning you don't have a 6-inch curb step up to the.
That's not the area that is flush. It's flush as you go around where this car is parked.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the area right next to the accessible spaces. So that's why you don't need any ramps.
All right, so let's go to the next one then, because I think it's also shown as not flush in the next one.
Yeah, might have.
Yeah, you can't see any accessible entrance here from the parking spaces.
And then this is really where you see that pinch of the, and maybe it's just that the rendering isn't accurate, but it doesn't look like a clear 5-foot sidewalk there, where you've got your wheelchair radiuses. Maybe it's because the foundation wall base is kind of projecting into that sidewalk.
Yeah,
I think that's just it's probably just a condition of the rendering. It's a rendering, not an elevation, so it's it's never perfectly accurate, but I see what you're talking about.
And where is the planting that you had in the last elevation? Where should that be showing up in this rendering? You had a planting strip somewhere.
Right there.
That's no longer there, I believe.
Yeah, so that's not there.
That's correct. This is more accurate what you're looking at.
This is also, you're not seeing those VRFs hanging from the right side of the building there. You got to add those in.
The existing ones on the existing building.
Because they will be there in the future, right?
Yep.
So I guess this is a good time as any. I have some concerns about the material selection. Now that you're bringing in insulated metal panel at the shed and a standing seam metal roof, that seems a very different architectural language from what you're showing here. So now we've kind of got 3 buildings. And I appreciate and and you know, I really appreciate the concern of trying to be budget conscious. Have to do that all the time at work, so I know that's not something that you take lightly, but I do feel like we've got the existing building, we've got the addition, and then we've got a shed outbuilding, and they're not talking to each other enough. So, I mean, there's some attempt to bring in whatever that strip is. I don't know if that's a split face strip or a different color brick, the stripe or on the below the parapet of the existing building. So like that's like the only thing that's continuous. So even if there's a way to bring in a little bit of metal panel in just that sort of, you're kind of articulating a tower at the entrance there where you have the canopy, maybe there's some metal panel instead of the gray split face, or maybe there's bricks somewhere, but it's just, it feels very disjointed to me. And I do appreciate that this is a public building and it's utilitarian, but I feel like it's not quite there. In terms of the design. I'm also concerned that the main entrance is pointed to the side where people can't see from the road. So it seems like it's pointing a little bit in the wrong direction. It seems like it should point towards the road, but I'll let other board members speak if they want to.
I feel like I have been obnoxious enough tonight.
I agree with Sarah. I do feel like it's like the story of three structures here, even though there's two. And I again, not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to think about the next 50 years, and like, you know, this is visually prominent. I'm sympathetic to the fact that we've got budgetary concerns, but I don't know, and I don't have enough specific subject matter expertise to know like if the areas in gray on this elevation, for example, were metal panel instead of masonry, and then somehow were more congruent with the language of the accessory building. Maybe there's something in there, but it does. I think that's why we spent so much time earlier tonight talking about the landscape plan, because I think a lot of us have concerns about the appearance from the street, and obviously a more sophisticated and robust landscape plan is going to ameliorate some of our concerns with regard to these architectural details. So I guess I would just say I'd love to see, and they're probably the least expensive in terms of plantings and what the positive impact plantings can have on the overall project from an aesthetic standpoint. My 2 cents on that.
If I can add, actually, I guess this is going to start with a question, which is, with the existing building, do you have to bring that up to code? Do you have to, do you
No.
have to intercept thermal bridges and things like that? No?
No, because we're really doing a light touch on the interior. So we're, for the most part, to the right of the furthest apparatus bay door that you see there. Really, the extent of renovation within that is just behind that wall, just on that side of the building underneath it.
Yeah.
So that portion of the building will be under what's classified as level 2 alteration. So we don't need to bring the entire building up to code. There is a pricing alternate to do a rip and replace to the existing roof, where we would be adding some additional insulation for that. But we're pretty limited in what we can do with that, because if we can't bring the whole roof assembly up to code without causing some serious structural issues with the roof under there, and a number of other things. So it becomes a snowball effect. So existing building is a light touch.
And is the addition separated from the existing building as though it's an outdoor separation?
No, but there is a building joint. So there is a 2-inch thick building joint between the two. So they do move independently, but they will be combined. There will be doorways in the interior connecting both buildings.
Okay. So I guess my question then goes to, how to minimize, right? Like as far as the architectural approach and the material selections, I feel like the colors in particular create such a sharp contrast to the existing brick building that it almost makes it look bigger than it is. And perhaps there's an opportunity to incorporate darker colors, such as those that were used in the renderings presented at town meeting, with the design funding request, to kind of minimize the visual impact of this addition on that other ways makes this look like two separate buildings with a sort of an addition that really pops out. I know I work a lot in an urban context, and in those contexts, creating this sort of organic look of different buildings evolving over time is a good thing. I just don't know that it necessarily is in this setting. So I would suggest, as a sort of baseline, just looking at a somewhat darker palette as a way of kind of taking that first step at minimizing the visual impact of this addition. And along those lines, the fact that there was a genuinely attractive building that was presented at town meeting, kind of led to surprise when this came as the plan that was presented. And I'm wondering if there's a way to provide an option in town meeting for an approach that has more architecture to it with a kind of adult associated cost, so that the town can make an informed decision about, do we want to spend more money on a building that's a gateway to the center of town, historic center of town, or do we are we good saving that money because we got a lot of burdens ahead of us with DPW, et cetera? Has that approach been considered at all?
So I would say playing with colors and things like that, and maybe a couple of isolated areas like the front entry, adding back a little bit of insulated metal panel to that, I think is reasonable and can be accommodated within the time frame that we have. If we were to wholesale change the envelope to an insulated metal panel system from masonry, it's a completely different envelope system. It's not just changing the material, it's the entire backup system and the foundation that has to change completely with that. That would not be a practicable change to make at this time as an alternate. That would be canceling the bid. It would be a few months of rework in order to accommodate all that.
I think there may be something in the middle of that continuum.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think if we modify some of the materials around the entry, where like Eric was noting, to some of the insulated metal panel, and then darkened up some of the tones, played with a little bit of the material palette within the materials that we have now, I think we can probably achieve what you're looking for.
Well, I think that achieves what I'm looking for as it relates to the first question, but not the second question, which is giving the town an option. And I'm not saying that the alternative is a full metal panel system. There may be another way of looking at this. But there was a particular visual presented that was striking, quite frankly.
Yeah, the proposal shown at town meeting, I thought, made the existing building look better. And I don't think that's still the case, unfortunately. But maybe focusing on the parts of the building that you see most, clearest from the street, like the entry piece here might be a good place to start. Can I also ask, and I apologize if I missed this, please ignore the question, but We also didn't see that auxiliary, that outbuilding at town meeting. What was the need that precipitated that? Was that taken out of the existing, was it taken out of the addition, or was it a need that was discovered after you got through conceptual design?
It was part of both. It was part of the project originally. It just wasn't part of the rendering that was presented at town meeting. So it was always part of the plan. There was a need for specific attached to the main structure apparatus storage space to expand. But then there's non-frontline vehicles that don't necessarily need to be those frontline response vehicles, as well as a lot of equipment. So if you take a drive around the site today, you'll see a series of tents. Those things need to be stored somewhere, and that's certainly a much better place to store them than in open air tents that they're currently in. A lot of these things are pumps and weather sensitive materials and things like that that simply can't be utilized in the winter.
And
because
there's
of how
no
they're
space
stored.
for them at the back of the site?
No, because the wetlands pinch down there. We were out of room on the back. We're sort of fortifying the edges of a peninsula with this project. We're simply out of space, unfortunately.
But that outbuilding was there at town meeting, it just wasn't shown?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's heated and cooled, that space?
It's warmed, not cooled. So it's like 55 degrees is what it'll be maintained at in the winter. It's not keeping it warm enough for you and I, but it's enough to keep diesel from gelling, and if they're parking an ambulance in there, medications from freezing.
And is that a radiant slab as well, or is that just through?
Nope. Just a couple of electric unit heaters. Yep.
Right, because you have the fire pump in there too, right?
Yep.
Should we keep going around?
Sure. Yeah, there's just two more renderings. One just rotates around to the back a little bit. It's where you see the radio tower in the back. More of the same here. Just a continuation of the block. And
See, it's interesting because this perspective on it, when really all you're seeing is that color, it's not quite as visually jarring as it is in contrast to the brick. I don't have any further comments on this one.
You want to go to the last one, Josue? And this is sort of the view from, again, from Westford Street. This is sort of between Town Hall and the fire station. So just to the right is the new apparatus bays, and then steps back a couple of inches to the connector piece between the existing and the new. And again, the what was noted previously that there's a egress door out of the right side of the apparatus bay in this rendering. That's no longer there. That was just recently removed because it was not a safe exit out of the building. So that's back on the other side.
I think the base plan here is also not quite right in terms of the site layout. You've got a landscaped, but basically between you and that retaining wall, I think there is a landscaped island.
Also like curving for the parking.
Yes, that's correct.
And the curving for the parking and so.
I like that we have clover in the grass, though. That's accurate.
I love the spalling and staining on that concrete retaining wall as well. It's really stunning.
Is it part of the scope to keep the existing apparatus stores as white, or are those getting replaced as part of this work?
The existing ones are to remain.
Okay.
The only one that
all right.
the only one that leaves is on this existing elevation. If you were to look at it now, there are 4 overhead doors. The furthest to the left one is being infilled and replaced with a double door.
Yeah. Yeah. The white color is prominent visually.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, Dwight, if that would be better black, if
Yeah.
and unify the new and the old in a more kind of subtle and effective way if those weren't white, but
Are you saying that the existing doors now are black?
I'm just saying if all 5 of those bay doors were black, if it would call less attention to them.
Or another color besides white.
Yeah. Or that.
Maybe the color of the shed, like maybe there's the same, like a dark gray or something to make that structure have something to do with this part of the building.
Yeah.
Are the front steps going to remain of the existing front steps?
Just the ones that come out of the door, not the one that comes down to the roadway.
We did talk about that earlier, Sarah, and the response was that it is a non-code egress from that from that mezzanine storage space.
Gotcha.
So I would, this is the view that we showed at town meeting that was so much better, but I'm going to just kind of move on from that. I'm wondering if on that retaining wall, does it make any sense to do like a form liner or something so that looks like something other than a concrete wall? Just a simple, I mean, I've used a lot of like a board form liner that makes the concrete wall look like it was actually formed from boards, which is more of a mid-century approach to cast in place concrete. It might soften that a little bit.
Sure.
I guess my last comment on this elevation is just the lack of signage identification. Like it just feels naked to me. And I know that our formal entry is on the opposite side. But this is actually, I think, unless I'm mistaken, much more prominent.
Yeah.
And the fact that it just has no, I mean, I know we'll have signage in the form of like signs on posts, but the fact that the building in and of itself has no identification from this approach seems, I don't know, it just seems weird to me.
I think that's fairly intentional, because we don't want to draw folks' attention driving this way to say, hey, come in this entrance, because it's not the public entry. And so if we had a big sign on the front that said Carlisle Fire Department on this side of the building, you'd end up getting more vehicular traffic on this side that wouldn't be wanted.
I get it, but it looks very, again, like very utilitarian. I mean, I know, I don't know. I'll speak for myself. I hold the fire department in very high esteem, and I feel like they deserve some kind of like identification that's different than just a utility building. And so I hear the concern, and that thought did cross my mind, and yet I still feel like we're a pretty informal town here in Carlisle, and I think the fact that whether there's writing on that building or not, people are going to pull in that driveway.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to rely on the signage on posts to direct non-staff, where they need to drive and park, and we'll get it slowly after a few years as residents, but it just between the white doors and the lack of signage, it just seems like that could, I can't tell if that's an auto body or a fire station or DPW garage. So I think that would be an important thing for me.
That's a great point, Eric. I also think I think the angle of this rendering is a little misleading. You're coming downhill a little bit when you're coming from Town Hall, when you're coming from the center of town. And I have Google Earth open and I'm looking at the street view. And I mean, you would get this view from a parking space, obviously, but I think it might be a little bit more illustrative to show the actual view from a person, in a car driving down 225 or walking down 225 on the sidewalk there. Because I think you're going to see more of that building in the back. I think it's a little, and I'm not suggesting that's intentionally deception, but I'd like to see it like sort of from a street view, because I think we're going to see more of the building and more of the, like, you can see the vents, you can see the vents through the roof, we're going to see the tower. I think we're going to see a lot more of that building than is currently showing.
And probably the mechanical equipment on the rooftop as well. That's generally, I've never not been disappointed in how big that shit is. Excuse my French. And then the solar as well. I feel like that's probably going to be angle mounted, right? You don't see a whole lot of flat solar.
It is, but it's also behind a short parapet. So yeah, it would be tucked back. You wouldn't see it from the street.
It's a short
For your
parapet.
reference, our current building has an RTU on it, which you can't see.
Understood. I would imagine though that, well, I'd like to be convinced that we're not gonna see them by having that view be a little bit more. I mean, I feel like this is sort of the grasshopper view as opposed to the street view from the perspective of somebody that's a normal height.
And then if we can see them, great, but better to not be surprised, right?
Sure.
If it's just moving a point of view in a model shouldn't be that.
No, it's not a problem.
And how tall is that parapet? I'm looking at sections in the bid set that don't seem super tall, but I am admittedly navigating this for the first time on the parapets.
And Matt, is that parapet documented as an add alternate to get tied to the roof? If the roof is taken as an add alternate?
For the existing building,
Yes.
yes.
So is this showing the existing building with the parapet?
No, the existing building isn't. There's an extra. Yeah. So if you were to zoom in, there's sort of an extra reveal in that roof edge coping. So that's what that's showing. Couple, like 2 more inches of flashing there.
To accommodate the extra insulation on the roof.
Correct.
Okay, but then on the addition, how tall is that parapet?
It depends where we are on the roof.
I'm looking at this part of the roof that we're going to see from this angle.
Yeah. I would have to get back to you. I don't have that off the top of my head right now.
Okay, well, when you revise the rendering perspective, if you can also just provide that information, that would be helpful.
Certainly.
I am sympathetic. I am often arguing that you're not going to see this stuff from the ground, but I don't necessarily believe it right now. How tall is the monitor off the roof plane?
Let's see. On the low side, set my scale here. 6 feet.
And the extent of that is shown correctly in this rendering?
That's right. And the parapet to the right that we're looking at above the windows is 3 feet. I don't know exactly how tall off the top of my head those ballast mounted angled solar arrays are, but I think they're less than 3 feet, if I recall correctly. They're like 1.5 feet or so.
But that roof does slope towards that 3-foot parapet. So
It slopes down towards the 3-foot parapet.
no, understood. My point just being that there are higher section. The roof itself is higher in the middle, which is usually
It's higher.
opposite
It's
of-
higher all the way to the left.
Yeah.
In which case it's 2 feet.
I think we just need to see the solar array depicted as well.
I'm assuming the answer to this is no, but there's currently 2 large blue spruces, I think, near the generator corner. No way to.
Those are. Yeah, those won't be salvaged, unfortunately. They have to get removed in order for us to do our sewer line that goes out to the septic. I don't. Yeah.
So where the electric service is coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, this is probably indicated on the plans, but the existing cistern that's under the parking spaces that we're looking at right now in the foreground, does that remain?
It does.
Okay.
So the existing private well will be maintained in order to provide water service to that. So that's the only use of the existing well. It'll be used to fill that cistern up, which then feeds the fire truck. So this is the water supply for the fire apparatus.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a new well, either public or private, to feed the water for the structure.
Correct.
Okay. Are we ready to open this up to public comment?
I just have one question about schedule. I'm not sure if it's the right place to add or not, but are there any long lead procurement items for this project that will affect schedule? You got a lot of specialized equipment, whether it's specialized material or anything else. Is anything along that timeline going to affect the schedule?
There are long lead items, but they are not anticipated to affect the schedule. And if they are, that would be the responsibility of the general contractor or their subs to rectify. So identified currently right now, what we're seeing is the longest lead items, longest time are the generator, which we're seeing coming in around 40 to 50 weeks or so, which is fine. And then the switch gear and some of those associated components are similar, tracking up to 50 weeks or so. So 15-month schedule for this. Those typically are the first shop drawings that we see and coordinate with.
Yeah.
And so given the 15-month schedule, when it needs to be delivered and energized in order to commission the BMS system and all the HVAC equipment for this, That gives the contractor 6 to 8 weeks after execution of the contract to have a sign-off shop drawing, which is reasonable.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, one more question. I keep saying that. What's the who's developing the safety plan? And I'm assuming there is one. I know Chief Saros, I'm sure, has this front of mind, but obviously all this work is getting done while we're trying to maintain fire safety for the town, emergency response. So I'm just thinking about the site is obviously has lots of constraints. There's going to be lots of contractors and trucks and storage of materials. Um, um, I know that Rockland Road is right there, which is also a narrow road and, can't be obviously blocked or encumbered by vehicles pertaining to the construction project. So just wanted to make sure. I'm sure this is covered 100 times already with other committees, but I feel like it's important to just state it for the record that there's a construction plan and a safety plan in place that Chief Saros has signed off on to ensure he can safely and effectively continue to operate the fire department while this project is going on, given the spatial constraints we have.
So yeah, so there is a draft phasing plan associated with the construction documents. Ultimately, construction phasing and the safety plan are going to be means and methods by the contractor. They will be required to be submitted to the fire department and approved by the chief. Any deviations to that plan will have to be coordinated well in advance. And it's specific that the contractor maintains fire department operations irregardless of any of their activities. So anything that's going to impact the fire department will have to be coordinated in advance. If there's going to be any shutdowns that the generator is not going to be able to handle for actual power shutdowns and things like that, because that will happen periodically throughout the project. If it's longer than the fire department is willing to entertain, then they will have to bring in another temporary power source in order to do that work. We have talked about how we're going to be devising or dividing up, existing utilities and things like that to make it so that the site is well shared. But ultimately, the chief's needs during the course of construction are going to take the priority. And the contractor will have to make sure that any deviations outside of that are approved by the chief before proceeding.
And so in the event that there is, I'm assuming that has been expressed as part of the bid documents.
Yes.
Because if the contractor ultimately says, well, the project's taking me 25% longer to complete because we couldn't move as fast as we anticipated because we can't accomplish as much on a daily basis, who bears the cost of that schedule extension?
There's certainly always a risk if you're occupying a site that a contractor is working within where substantial delays could result in a claim. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that the chief can, because ultimately at the end of the day, right, the chief can say, well, you can never utilize this portion of the site because I always need to have access, even though that they have work they need to do there. And if that does have a significant impact on the schedule, there is risk of a claim for that, certainly. But I think careful coordination, some specifics within the contract documents that highlight that fact to the contractor, those all sort of set up the relationship that this is going to be a collaboration. And that's really how it's going to be. All of the contractors that are pre-qualified for this regularly do work like this, complicated, fussy work that during full or partial occupancy as part of a renovation. So they can all handle it and are expecting it.
Okay, so that was part of the description of, or part of the definition of qualified contractor is someone that has experience working in this way.
I don't remember the exact wording of how it was in the pre-qualification documents. I don't know if Neil, if you're still on, if you could speak to that, but
we put we put it into the prequal that previous experience on occupied fire station projects would be advantageous and should be identified in their responses. Many of the contractors did, not all of them did, but all of the general contractors met the minimum requirements that were required for the project and were pre-qualified to bid.
Okay.
So conversely, is there any performance clauses or incentive clauses to get this done earlier?
There are not any to get it done early, but there are liquidated damages for delivering it late.
Okay.
Along the lines of the safety and construction management plan, you've got a significant amount of ledge you got to be removing here. Looks like as much as 8 feet behind the tower. I think in our last meeting, somebody said that that would be hammered. Is there do we understand how long that's going to take and what kind of impact that's going to have on the users of the fire station?
I wouldn't be able to speak to how long it's going to take, but I do know that both Town Hall and the fire department have experience working within their site while rock hammering was going on, because there was a substantial amount of it required to install the tower a few years ago when they put that in.
Looks like this is many times, but okay. All right. Anybody else have questions on the site plan? I mean, on the architecturals and elevations from the board before I go to the public. Did I already go to the public? I don't think I did.
We go back to the first rendering. So to other comments, quick comments. It seems to be a white box that's to the left of the, oh, sorry, to the right of the right apparatus door. Is that the generator enclosure?
That's correct. Yep.
Is there a way that that color could be different? The white is prominent, or maybe with more landscaping. Just something to consider. And then to the earlier point about exposed concrete, does the outbuilding have at its lower level, is that exposed concrete below the siding on the shed?
It is.
I wonder if there's a way that the siding could extend down so it looks like it's more of a consistent siding material as opposed to whatever it is, 6 or 8 feet of exposed concrete.
It's a prefab building though, so those walls are, the siding on the walls is associated with the prefabricated components. I don't know if you can match that.
I guess just expressing the concern that a concrete wall that high will be prominent, especially if those trees are not accurately shown.
Board formed concrete. No, I'm with you. I'm with you, Dwight. We don't want to end up with that kind of popping out as something we missed. In this view, I know you said those spruces can't be saved, but there are a couple of somethings, maybe crab apples. Are those able to be preserved?
Unfortunately, no.
And that's all because of site utilities and things like that are happening.
Site utilities, the retaining wall. Yeah, there's a lot of work going on in that corner.
Okay.
Believe me, I fought hard myself to get those because I thought there were better solutions than taking those trees out because they're so prominent. They really define that corner. But we looked at it every which way that we possibly could, and unfortunately there wasn't a solution that allowed them to remain.
Yep, I understand the pain. Okay, with that, I will open it up to public comment. Looks like we've got Christina's hand raised. Go ahead, Christina. You got the only one.
Hi, thanks. Christina Christodolopoulos, Hemlock Hill Road, co-chair of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. With all this talk about landscaping, I just wanted to put a little gentle reminder out there that for any area that is not under the jurisdiction of CONSCOM, there is a municipal landscaping policy. And so 70% of the trees and plantings need to be straight species native. So just a gentle reminder. Thanks.
Thank you, Christina. Are you concerned that what's shown on the landscape plan is not consistent with that policy?
I actually have not seen what the landscaping plan is, and I'm not sure from the rendering what they're planning on using. So I just wanted to iterate that policy does exist.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe it's also in our regs. I don't know that it's necessarily the straight species requirement, but it's also in our regs. So if you could confirm somehow on the plans that what you're showing.
Oh, sorry, can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, so where's the landscape plan here. So like what we've made sure is to confirm that all the proposed species are native species. I also know there was a requirement of like you can't just like there needs to be a specific percentage of mixture of like the different species that you used. It can't just be like one. So I know those items were taken into consideration. That's why you see like, whatever we are proposing a row, like we have a combination of different type of planting. It's just not like one continuous type of planting. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's generally speaking, we did go over the regs and confirm to the best of our ability the regulations from a landscape perspective, and we feel that we are within those boundaries. But if somebody feels that there is something that needs to be changed, we are open to common suggestions.
Well, I think if nothing else, noting which ones are native, which ones are not, and confirming that you meet the percentage requirements of the municipal policy.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident we do, but I'll double check again just to make sure.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is if you can note that on the plan.
Yeah, we can add, the percentage and the, I believe all of them are native, but we can add like a note just to say, native. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Thank you. Other members of the public?
Hey, this is Ben Herder again, 517 Bedford Road. Just a couple more comments. I guess in line with my comment earlier about the streetscape perspective and neighborhood context. Just through looking at the renderings this evening and what I've seen shared publicly, as a public-facing municipal building where the existing entrance is on the front of the building currently, it appears that the proposal has turned that building kind of backwards, where the entrance is now towards the rear. And in this perspective that we're looking at right here, you can see how the fourth apparatus bay has been removed and it's being infilled with, if not just all solid masonry, maybe solid masonry with a door. The front entranceway is being abandoned other than the stair. So in effect, the front of the building is now the rear. And so I guess my question is, since this is the case, how is the landscape, the lighting, the site lighting and signage informing wayfinding around this building so that it's understandable to the public? Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. And I appreciate the site lighting comment in particular because I forgot to bring that up. I think, you know, in the updated, so I'm looking at the, actually, I'm now looking at the right plan set. Yeah, I don't see a photometric plan in the plan set, and we would also need to see the actual lighting selections and locations, etc., along with the signage plan that we discussed earlier.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be confusing to the public. Anyway, sorry, someone was speaking.
No, yeah, so we can provide that.
Okay.
I keep seeing you flip past a photometric plan, Josue. Was that part of the initial permitting package?
Sorry, I was muted. I was gonna say that, yeah, it was part of the initial permitting package, and in theory, because it hasn't really changed a lot, the actual location of these lights, we didn't provide this again, but we could do that. So we had like a photometric plan with foot candles that you get, you know, throughout your parking lot and building. It's a combination of side lights, light poles with some wall-mounted lights on the building. There's also a like a fixer image here with the information on what those are. So we will make sure to incorporate those again. So it has like the revised background.
Okay, interestingly enough, it took a long time for it to actually the layers to resolve in my view, and the schedule like didn't show up until literally just now. And I think in general it's just helpful not providing things piecemeal so that we have to sort of figure out what's current and what's not. Like it's helpful to have a full set of the things we're being asked to review when there's a revision put together. So I think it would be helpful if you could in your next submission include these details as well.
Will do. So just to confirm, is the board preference to have a compile set with site, civil stuff, renders, architectural drawings, and everything all combined that are pertinent to the comments that we are receiving now?
I think so.
That's
Okay.
One set.
like, yeah.
Well,
one
this
last
is a-
sorry, one last question on the just well, since we have this plan up right now, we're looking at lighting. I can't see if there is color temperature indicated on those different luminaires. That would be, I know that was a comment that someone brought up. I think it was a letter from the Historic Commission. So that's something, yeah, I don't see anything on there. So I think it'd be nice for us to just be able to confirm that those are compliant with various interests in town.
That's not a problem.
Thank you.
I think Julie's got her hand up.
Julie, you don't
Yeah,
have
I
to
just
raise
wanted to
your hand.
request that you add the wetland resource area to this site so we can see how the lighting levels might impact natural resources.
Okay.
That's a great suggestion.
On the fixture selections, are these consistent with fixtures used elsewhere in town, particularly on the pole mounted?
I don't know if you know the answer to that, Matt, but that would be an answer, a question for the electrical team. I don't think they are here, but we can confirm that and get you the answer for sure.
I think another detail that would be nice to have on one of the site plans is the wellhead protection circle zone for the proposed public water supply, and how that relates to both the existing private well, the existing public water supply for town hall, and therefore help us to determine the feasibility of that in conjunction with what Julie just mentioned. And seeing all those things in conjunction with where the current wetland boundary delineation is, I think it's really important that it's my opinion that it's important that we ultimately get a public water supply for this building. And I want to make sure as part of my vote that we can determine the feasibility of that based on all the other competing overlays and radii.
Yeah, we can do that. Like we mentioned, like big chance that we're gonna move the current location as shown. And yes, once we have that location on the plans, we will show the required buffer or zone 1 for that public well proposed location for sure. Yeah, we can do
And
that.
also service access to the wellhead, as that service access is potentially, if it does or doesn't have to traverse, a wetland area or something like that. I think that's relevant to the feasibility of whatever the location ends up being for that.
Yeah, we're not expected to go through the wetland, but there is definitely going to be some kind of like tree clearing to propose that, to have that clear path to the well. Yeah, we will show
And
that.
no, I hope not, but I just
Yeah.
want it on paper.
Yep.
Please, thank you.
On the lighting plan here, it looks like you've got pole mounted arms where the poles are close to the bottom of your
Yeah.
slopes.
So this is the older set, and some of these things is like the electrical will kind of like model this. They don't really put a lot of thought into higher or bottom end of the wall. So like what we normally do is that once we actually present those in our plans, which they should be locating in our site plan already, we actually bring them to the top of the wall, because when they are modeling this, they're not really accounting in that case for that wall. But yes, we will. That's what I was saying, that we will make sure that we issue the new photometric with the new background to make sure that this is fully accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. It sounds like we've got quite a list for the group. I sure hope somebody's been taking notes. Do we have any further questions or comments at this time?
I do have one question. What is the board preference? Should we go ahead and work on the comments that we got today, like verbally? I know I've been taking notes on my end too. And issue a new set, or is the board preference that we wait to give you enough time to actually react to these plans, since they were just submitted on Friday, and then when we just issue like one finalized set, that, like you said, everything's combined in one set and hopefully has all the comments addressed. I just want to know what's your preference so we can adhere to that.
Well, I think there's, to some extent, some of the items that we have been discussing as you sort of make adjustments, it might have ripple effects, right? Or it might be that it affects something that we didn't anticipate. What does the board think in terms of having kind of a next meeting where there's interim kind of sketches, like a one-off sheet that addresses particular questions and concerns that could then be incorporated into a later set, or should we set some kind of target date for providing comments and let the team take it from there? Anybody have a thought on this? Greg, it looks like I see your hand, but go ahead.
I was going to add, when we were talking about a full set of drawings, I was just questioning, what the burden is on the design team and how we get to the finish line. There are some comments that were made here today, like the wayfinding on the site, that the design team could incorporate into the set and get into the next addendum. Then there are other comments that need kind of an iterative process of the design development. So I think we have to, and I've got to sleep on it myself, but I think we have to ask the design team to use some careful judgment and get into the drawings for presentation to the planning board, the things that you have to opine on. And then the other things, cut them loose to execute and issue in the next addendum, the things that are sort of black and white and non-controversial, or, have no, just do it, right? So for example, confirming clearances, like I said, the wayfinding signs, that sort of thing. So I think there's a little bit of a mix that I'd like to talk through in the committee tomorrow. Just to share that thinking with you. I know the planning board has its own interest, but that's what I was thinking. There's going to be a combination, and we'll need the design team to use judgment.
My personal recommendation is that there are aesthetic things that are well suited to a consolidated and updated presentation package. That I agree with Addie. If you issue a single sheet with one update addressing a note that came out tonight, doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. So I agree with you, Greg, like some things might be able to be addressed that way, but I think my personal preference would be to get the bulk of the things that we talked about tonight addressed in a single
Robinhood's new
set.
desktop trading platform is changing the
things like, personally, I'm not bothered at this level by the lack of a flush curb for the accessibility from the parking spaces, because we know that can't not get done, right? Like that is obviously hugely important, but also heavily regulated. So that's not really an option. Whereas there's many other things tonight we talked about that I think really are best communicated through updated renderings and drawing details. So I guess I would prioritize those things that could be most easily and readily done in the time frame that's necessary for. I think we're all trying to reverse engineer this voting process, starting with the biggest concerns and the biggest deals first, I guess.
Sarah, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I think what you and Eric said both make sense. Yeah, I think a consolidated site drawing with all the information that was just requested, plus revised elevations that address some of the design comments will be really helpful. And then there's all the technical stuff that has to happen per the peer review and per all the things that, are required to happen in the drawing set. So I think, Greg, you're right. There's kind of like two different routes. So in terms of timing, I know sounds like you've already put this up to bid. Will you be ready for our next meeting? So I think we need to figure out timing on planning board review. We've got
Yeah,
another meeting. Was it 2 weeks?
2 weeks, I think there is one more.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my question was coming from, because like I'm gonna speak from the site civil perspective. I don't want to speak for the weight on the renders and architecturals, elevations, and those things. That's outside of my purview. I'll let Matt speak on those. Um, I think all the comments we have received from a site civil perspective are really good, and from a big picture, they are not really um the type of comment that will put a wrench on my design. Like it's not like a stormwater comment or something not really working. It's about signage, making the site better, those type of things that are for me kind of like easier to update at this level. It's not gonna create like a ripple effect of like, oh, if I remove this subsurface system, now I need to update all this other stuff. That being said, like I feel confident that we can turn this quickly around. And that's what I was asking. Like, but if you want to see a full set, I just need to make sure that I'm coordinating with Matt on their end. They may have to wait for our plans to be updated in certain things for then go and update the renders. And that's kind of where I was coming from with that question. But if the board preference is to put everything together, might take a little bit more of time just to be able to get all of that accommodated. But Matt, you can speak on your end, but I think um if the hearing is 2 weeks from now, I will pretty much ask the board what's the latest you want to see those plans in front of you, so then we can make sure that we work towards that deadline. If you tell me, hey, get it the Tuesday before or the Wednesday before, like give us 3-4 business days, like we can work on our end to accommodate that ask, I will assume for the most part. If there's any item pending, we can make sure to flag it. But like I said, I feel confident that we can turn this quickly to accommodate whatever lead time you need to be able to look at this before the next hearing. And that's what I was coming from. Like, if there are any additional comments that as you actually take time, you have the time to go on this on your own, if you can send it to us, that will be great. It's just a matter of like working also on a deadline on when's the latest that we can receive those comments to be able to turn those around in time for you to look at this before the next hearing.
So I don't expect that the board will have, well, and folks, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had a lot of time together tonight. It's been a pretty thorough discussion. I'm not sure that there would be specific comments coming from the board on this plan set that would be substantially supplemental to or in addition to what we've already talked about. That said, maybe what we can do is ask the board to send Julie an email by the end of the week with anything else that jumps out and that is concerning. And what I think I'd really like to be able to address in our next meeting and really see in our next meeting personally is signage and wayfinding and site lighting more robustly presented, and an attempt to think about how we address materiality and color and attempt to create a more cohesive architectural approach. Is there anything else specifically that folks want to see in the next meeting?
No, and I think we'd want to see them no later, and Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if it takes you and Noel some time to review and make sure we've got, because we don't want an incomplete submission if there's things you haven't been able to do. I think we'd want them no later than the morning of the Thursday before, so no later than the morning of the 9th of April. Is that right, Julie? Or would the 8th be better, end of day on the 8th?
I mean, like realistically at this time, we're just forwarding you what we get.
Yeah.
So the 9th would be like the drop dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will shoot for that, and then Julie, I think we should be able to address all these comments. And Julie, if there is any items that we feel that we may be struggling to meet, I'll make sure to coordinate and let you know ahead of time. I don't think that will be the case, but again, there are so moving pieces here and so many entities that have to say here that I don't want to say like 100%, but I'll make sure that we coordinate that internally. But we will definitely shoot for that end of day Wednesday the 8th, no later than morning of the Thursday the 9th, to get you like that compiled set all in one place that the board can look at on the next hearing.
Yeah, so tomorrow, Noelle and I can go through our notes from tonight also and send you a follow-up email with all the things that the board listed today, if that's helpful to you to supplement your own notes.
Definitely helpful. I've noticed that you are way better than me at taking notes. Sometimes you send me stuff and I'm like, yeah, so definitely helpful.
Okay. Are we ready to continue this? Or close the hearing first and then continue it?
Don't close the hearing.
Don't close the hearing. Sorry, it's late. I've been traveling all day. Are we ready to continue the hearing? Julie, do we have a time yet on April 13th?
So yeah, so you have your hearing for the zoning bylaw amendment scheduled for 7, and then it just depends on if you want, how much time you want for that. You could do 7:30 for this or 8 o'clock for this. The rest of your night is kind of open, so.
Okay. Why don't we do 7:30?
Okay.
Okay.
April
So,
13th.
do I have a motion to continue to April 13th at 7:30 p.m.?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, starting with Eric.
Adams, aye.
May I?
Gigas eye.
Grady, aye. You're on mute, Joe.
It's a good thing. I guess you are.
Beth, aye.
All right, we will see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.
I do have a couple invoices for when if you're ready. If you
Did you already do the A&R plans?
Yeah.
We did. Yes.
So, sorry.
And I was just going to request that we put minutes off till next week.
Yes, we will. Okay. Invoices.
Yeah, so I just have a couple, and I sent them in an email to you guys. But so there's one from the Mosquito, and this is the legal ad for this fire station hearing. This will come out of your legal ads budget line. And then the other one is from CAI Technologies. This is their annual updates to our tax map parcels, right? Like when there's A&Rs, right? Like we send them a batch every year and they update our tax maps. And so this is paid for from ARPA funds.
So does that mean we're going to have to find a way to pay for this when we don't have ARPA funds anymore?
Oh, we've already planned for that, Addie. We can have a chat offline, but yeah.
Okay.
That's a yes and a no. Like I have a
Yes and
plan.
no.
We have a plan.
Excellent.
Yeah. Sure.
Any questions on these? No? Do we have a motion to approve and authorize the town planner to pay and sign the invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Adams, aye.
Aye, aye.
Giga aye.
Grady, aye.
True eye.
Fifth eye. Great. Okay. And we will, let's do the minutes on April 13th. And do we have anything else? I apologize, I was late tonight. I was flying home. Thank you, Addie, for organizing all of this. That was incredibly helpful. And thank you all for your comments. There's a lot to go through. Any other? No, motion to adjourn until April 13th. Oh, and don't forget that for people that are running for planning board, the town caucus is tomorrow night. So you need to go.
Who's running?
I don't know. Dwight's seat is up, Chris's seat is up, and my seat is up. So all three of them.
And
although
this
Mosquito said only two of them.
Okay.
But you didn't answer the question.
I did not answer the question. The question is still unanswered. We'll
Do you
see.
need support there?
I think you all three should at least show up at the caucus. Please.
No, we should show up and at the very least nominate each other. So yeah, so that's 7 o'clock tonight. Actually, Chris and Dwight, we can talk offline if we need to about coordinating for that. So okay, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay, everybody. I will see you.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, Noel.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.